Good evening, everyone, and a hearty welcome to the Emerging Bharat Growing Kerala Business Conclave organized by the Kerala Kaumudi Group on Kerala's economic development. A leading media brand in Kerala, Kerala Kaumudi has an undisputed tradition of 112 years in Malayalam journalism. It is a media house that has played a special role and in the forefront in shaping the social, economic, political, and cultural landscape of Kerala, and it has contributed to shaping Kerala society by creating a progressive mindset through its vibrant journalism. And we are very proud to say that Kerala Kaumudi has taken a leadership role in bringing new ideas to the fore and steering discussions that scale the state to new heights. It is with that spirit, that same commitment, that the Kerala Kaumudi Group is today organizing this very special conclave, Emerging Bharat Growing Kerala Business Conclave in the capital city of Kerala. And what a privilege and what an honor to have this phenomenal leader grace us with her presence today at our conclave. It is a privilege to have Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, and she is a leader who does not need any introduction to any of you, but still, let's take a look.
Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman is a resolute and confident leader with a strong sense of purpose, conviction, and unwavering dedication. The Finance Minister has played a pivotal role in India's rise as a fast-growing economy and has ably and skillfully steered the country through complex economic challenges, most notably during the pandemic. Mrs. Sitharaman has proved herself to be indomitable in a traditionally male-dominated role. Her perseverance and strength of will has carried her far. What is perhaps her most admirable quality is the ability to balance toughness with flexibility, adapting to changing economic scenarios. As Finance Minister, Mrs. Sitharaman has shown steadfast commitment to inclusive development and reforms and policies that benefits all sections of society. Mrs. Sitharaman made history by becoming India's second woman defense minister and the second woman finance minister after Indira Gandhi, and the first full-time female minister to hold each of those portfolios. Mrs. Sitharaman started her career in the corporate world, but her desire to make a meaningful difference and to contribute to the country led her to a political career. It is our honor and privilege to welcome the Finance Minister on stage.
Gentlemen, let's put our hands to welcome on stage the agile, the strong Finance Minister of India, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, joined by the Honorable Union Minister of State for External Affairs and Parliamentary Affairs, Shri V. Muralidharan. Also joining them on stage, Shri Santosh Kumar P., Member of Rajya Sabha from Kerala, joined by our Chief Editor, Kerala Kaumudi's Chief Editor, Shri Deepu Ravi. Welcome, sir. I now invite on stage Ms. Aishwarya JS for a prayer.
ജഗദീശാ രക്ഷിക്കാനങ്ങളെന്നും മഹിതമാം ഭക്തി തന്ദാനമിന്നേകി മനതാരിലെന്നും വിളങ്ങട്ടെ ശുദ്ധി ചിരമായി വളരട്ടെ ഞങ്ങളിൽ ഭക്തി ജഗദീശാ രക്ഷിക്കാനങ്ങളെന്നും മഹിതമാം ഭക്തി ദാനമിന്നേകി മനതാരിലെന്നും വിളങ്ങട്ടെ ശുദ്ധി ചിരമായി വളരട്ടെ ഞങ്ങളിൽ ഭക്തി ജനകതൻ ചിന്തയിൽ കൺമണിയായി നിതരാം വസിപ്പൂ പരം പൊരുളേ നീ ജനകതൻ മാനസ കൂരിരുൾ നീക്കി ധവള പ്രകാശം പരത്തു നീന്നും ധവള പ്രകാശം പരത്തു നീന്നും.
Please be seated. Thank you, Aishwarya. To formally welcome all of you and for his introductory address, it's now my pleasure to invite Shri Deepu Ravi.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs of Government of India, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, Union Minister of State for External Affairs and Parliamentary Affairs, Sri V. Muralidharan, Sri P. Santosh Kumar MP, Dr. Shashi Tharoor MP, who will be joining us later in the second session, the eminent recipients of the Kerala Kaumudi Economic Awards, other dignitaries, friends, a very warm welcome to all of you. Kerala Kaumudi was founded in 1911 by my great-grandfather, Sri C.V. Kunyaraman, at the behest of the great visionary and social reformer, Sri Narayana Gurudevan, as a weekly publication. It was converted to a morning daily in 1940 by my grandfather, Sri K. Sukumaran, who was honored by the nation with the Padma Bhushan for his invaluable contributions to society. He worked relentlessly for the upliftment of the marginalized and fought against the inequalities of the caste discrimination. 112 years and 4 generations on, we still adhere to the values of our forefathers, and Kerala Kaumudi still continues to be a catalyst for social advancement, economic growth, and nation building. India, that is Bharat, has come a long way from the hard days of pre- and post-independence in the first half of the 20th century to a major global force to be reckoned with in the 21st century. On our Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi's watch, India is undergoing a rapid and phenomenal change. It is no longer a non-entity, but a force that many countries look up to. India is now poised to be the 3rd largest economy in the world. The Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan has propelled our country towards self-reliance in different arenas such as technology, infrastructure, defense, education, and healthcare. Currently, the 5th largest economy in the world, India is harnessing the power of digital technology like nobody's business. Our indigenously developed payment interface, the UPI, has taken the world by storm and is now the gold standard of money transactions globally. We witnessed the best implementation of the GST scheme across many countries with minimal disruptions, which in turn saw a doubling of the taxpayer base with corresponding increase in collections. By developing our own research and manufacturing ecosystem, we have transitioned from being the world's biggest arms importer to a major arms exporter. India's highway network has expanded at breakneck speed of almost 60% in 9 years, from 90,000 kilometers in 2014 to 1,45,000 kilometers in 2023. The number of airports also jumped from 74 to 148 in the same period. India did not buckle, even during the trying times of the pandemic. If anything, we emerged even more resilient. We not only indigenously developed the Covaxin, but also turned out to be the pharmacy of the world by supplying vaccine to more than 90 countries through the Vaccine Maitri program, thus embracing the true essence of Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. Kerala too is fast catching up with the development spree that has captured the nation. The state has taken great strides under our Chief Minister, Sri Pinarayi Vijayan. At a 22.1% increase in state revenue, we are 3rd in the country, behind only Gujarat and Maharashtra. Kerala became the first state to implement complete e-governance in the country, with almost 260 services being available digitally to the people. The much delayed GAIL gas pipeline project, which would earn the state 900 crores in tax revenue, has been completed during this period. The Kochi Water Metro, with a fleet of 78 hybrid boats, is the first of its kind in the country, connecting 10 island communities with the mainland. The Kochi Metro, the city's key transportation system, which has become operationally profitable this fiscal year, is yet another milestone. The state recovered from the ravages of natural calamities like the Oki cyclone, the 2018 floods, and health emergencies like Nipah in an exemplary manner. It is in this context that we are organizing this economic conclave, Emerging Bharat, Growing Kerala, to envisage how a synergetic partnership between the state and the center can offer further momentum to the growth of Kerala. We are truly honored to have as our inaugurator, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, one of the key persons charting out the meteoric growth of the Indian economy. We also look forward to hearing her views for Kerala's growth in the coming years and decades. We welcome you to this conclave, Madam. Minister Sri Minister Sri V. Muralidharan will be presiding over this August function. The manner in which he handled the parliamentary affairs during the abrogation of Article 370 was commendable. We extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. Sri P. Santosh Kumar, Rajya Sabha MP, is one of the key speakers here today. We extend a very hearty welcome to you, sir. We also welcome our senior bureaucrats, representatives of trade and industry organizations, our sponsors, academicians, political leaders, students from various educational institutions, friends, and well-wishers of Kerala Kaumudi. We also welcome all the members of the Kerala Kaumudi family who have been working tirelessly over the past several weeks to make this conclave a reality. Thank you, everyone. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Sri Deepu Ravi, for beautifully setting the context for why we are organizing this business conclave. And on that note, I'd like to invite the dignitaries on stage to light the lamp and mark the beginning, an auspicious beginning, for the first edition of this business conclave being organized by the Kerala Kaumudi Group. We fervently hope that this is going to be a beautiful tradition here on, with this first edition of Business Conclave on Kerala's economic development being inaugurated in this most auspicious fashion by the Honorable Finance Minister of India, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, in the presence of these august dignitaries on stage. An auspicious beginning to the first edition of this business conclave on Kerala's economic development being organized by the Kerala Kaumudi Group. Thank you, dignitaries, for doing the honors. Please be seated. It's now my pleasure to invite the Honorable Member of Parliament to Rajya Sabha from Kerala, Sri P. Santosh Kumar, for his speech.
Respected Finance Minister of our country, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, Union Minister Sri V. Muralidharan, other dignitaries on and off the dais, and well-wishers of Kerala Kaumudi, friends of media. I'm very happy to be with you to join this important conclave based on the theme Emerging Bharat, Growing Kerala. The dignified presence of our Honorable Union Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, makes the event all the more important. I hope this will be a turning point in Kerala's development history, and I expect more fruitful results. Now, regarding the first part of this conclave, with the first theme, Emerging Bharat, Emerging India. Since I am part of a political party which is having a different view on this, I should express it first. I don't want to take much of the time by describing why it is. But the concept Emerging Bharat is not a new thing. As India is, this started its development process long back, and it started with the independence. Successive governments done a lot to economically develop our country. So unfortunately, the projection is in a different way. A section is trying to project that Rome is built in a day and this all started by 2014. Don't take it amiss that I am making a political allegation, but all the governments had their own role in developing this country. And of course, we are all happy to see India emerging a big force, and we are more ambitious nowadays. And of course, the finance minister is very committed, talented, non-corrupt, and we are proud of her. But as you all know, policy that matters always. And with this policy, where we have reached, SDG, for example, Sustainable Development Goals, our position is 120 out of 161 countries. And Human Development Index, also our position is pathetic. And I don't want to talk about scams and other issues. And I would like to request you to go through important notes, documents, which will clearly tell you what the exciting situation. And there are many insightful essays, and those essays and studies will tell you what the exact situation is. Now, the important question is the concept of growing Kerala. And it's my duty to remind you all about an important document, pamphlet, prepared in 1956 by C. Achyuta Menon. And being a CPI member and a parliamentarian, I hope, and I cannot refrain myself from remembering the same. And this pamphlet, titled Towards a Prosperous and Plentiful Kerala, is indeed a landmark. And the importance of that, Kerala was one of the poorest destinations after the formation. It was formed in the year 1956, and at the time of formation, it was one of the poorest destinations in India. Then Achyuta Menon was a visionary, and the then Communist Party leadership was a visionary. I think the Communist Party and the left contributed a lot towards the development of Kerala. Then this document later became the manifesto of the Communist Party in the 1957 election, and many points in that manifesto was actually those points were part of the governance in the coming days. The importance of this document is that even the UDF cannot escape from that. We had many UDF governments, Congress governments, but this broad framework was accepted by all political parties and formulations. That was the impact of this particular document. Now, where we are, Kerala. When we make a realistic approach, where we have reached, Kerala, of course, when we talk about models, we have two models. One is Kerala model, and of course, this newly started, Gujarat model. We never talk about Karnataka model, even though we have Infosys and Wipro in Karnataka, Bangalore. We never talk about Hyderabad model, even though we have many institutions in Hyderabad, Telangana. But we talk about Kerala and Gujarat. And let me compare one thing. We have only 0.71% of people below poverty line in Kerala. Out of, if you compare, this is not statistics from our side. It's authentic, from authentic sources. Less than 1% is total number of those who are below poverty line. Whereas in Gujarat, which is another projected model, the total number of people who are below poverty line is 33%. This was disclosed by the minister in the floor of the assembly. So we have every right to believe that. And in terms of wages, in Gujarat it is 323 rupees, whereas in Kerala it is 859. In fact, I'm requesting you not to make take it a miss, because this is just a reality, and I would like to compare that. And Kerala has achieved remarkably in various fields. In the field of education, healthcare, and these models are renowned and worldwide, no doubt at all. And land reforms, and no Indian state has such a record on comprehensive land reforms. There are many peculiarities, and I don't want to take much of your time by describing all those things which most of you are well aware of. But now, what is the challenge before Kerala? This is the most important question. We have to continue with this model because even Amartya Sen, one of our renowned economists, accepted this as a replicable model to continue with, to solve poverty and inequality. The Kerala model is celebrated worldwide. So we have to continue with this model. And how? There lies the important question. The problem of Kerala model is that I should tell you that we are in a financial crisis, debt crisis. It cannot be termed as debt trap, but we are in a crisis now. How it happened? If I am self-critical, I have to blame my governments and political parties are responsible for that. I don't want to, each and every political party has its own share in that. But how to overcome this is the most important issue. For example, now we have a debt of this gross state domestic product. For example, we have more than 38% is the debt comparing GSDP, and it should be below 30%. That means our debt rate is very high. So how to tackle this? This is one of the important questions. And to that question, from our side, we can say that we have to collect a huge revenue. According to the last CAG report, I must confess that the state government is yet to collect this tax revenue, which is more than 28,000 crores of rupees. And this must be collected immediately. And there are sources from electricity, from land reform, land sources, from GST, there are sources and this should be collected immediately. This can, in a way, solve this problem. And secondly, what is our challenge? The most important challenge is that the Kerala's education is, of course, up to +2, it's world class, no doubt at all. But our higher education system is deplorable and we don't have even a world class university. Even though we speak much about education and our investment in education, we don't have in a world-class university. This is one of the, not even a very good private university in our state. So this has to be solved. And our society is aging. That is also we have to take into account. Out of this total population, those who are above the age of 60 will constitute 20-23% within a decade. This will create new issues. So there are, ecological degradation, environmental issues are there. Like that, many problems are there which we have to confront with. So the challenge is that we cannot retreat from these social security systems. We are providing pensions to more than 63 lakh people, and we have to protect this section, this society, and by protecting them only, we can move forward. And revenue expenditure is there, this salary, pension, everything is there, which we cannot do away from these things. So the thing is that we have to continue with development strategy with more investment. And there lies the most important thing, the role of the central government in helping a state like Kerala. And to this question, I can tell you, the approach of the government of India is unfortunately not, acceptable. In a way, I'm sorry to say, it is stepmotherly approach. Because it was stated by the Prime Minister, our Chief Minister turned Prime Minister, that when the states grow, India grows. But what is the experience of Kerala? Those who are performing are actually penalizing. This is actually, performance means you will be punished. This is what is happening. I can tell you, quoting statistics, that is from CAG report, that Kerala, for example, the total revenue income of Kerala is, in percentage, it is 64, and whereas the central grant is 36% only, whereas in case of Uttar Pradesh, it is 53. The central share is 53. And in the case of Madhya Pradesh, it is 56. And in the case of Rajasthan, it is 44. And and 76 in the case of Bihar. And whereas Kerala is being neglected every day. And as I told you, we have a social security structure. And the center share is actually just 9.3% only. Whereas we are providing pension to various sections of the society, and it is more than 6,31,004,199. And in this, centers help is just 9.3%. So I don't want to, make a lot of allegations, but the point is that this financial relationship between the center and states must be reshaped and redefined. Otherwise, Kerala cannot move forward. And this is applicable to all other Indian states, especially after the introduction of GST. Almost all Indian states are facing the same problem. So this financial relationship must be, when you talk about cooperative federalism, you have every duty, right to restructure this financial relationship. This is what one of our major demands. And finally, I can tell you what is the future of Kerala. When we talk about investment, I can point out 3 key areas. Number one is a knowledge economy. All are talking about knowledge economy, but we have to revamp our higher education system, and we have to take more initiatives to make Kerala a knowledge economy. And secondly, healthcare. Healthcare is one of the most important areas where Kerala can contribute. AI is actually taking away the jobs of laborers in a lightning pace. But AI cannot be part of this healthcare, because that's a human approach is of course required, and AI cannot replace this area. And I request the Honorable Finance Minister to take initiative to start a nursing university in Kerala. Why it is important? Because healthcare will be one of the key areas where Kerala can concentrate in future. Out of the 20 lakh experienced qualified nurses, 15 lakh are from Kerala. So, and Kerala has more to contribute, and in a period of AI, these people can serve in a better way, and I hope the government will take initiative for that. And tourism is another important area, and just compare with Bali. All are talking about tourism also. Compare with Bali. Comparing Kerala, Bali is like Idukki only, lesser than Idukki's or around Idukki's area. But Bali is attracting lakhs of tourists, maybe more than 10-8-fold than Kerala's tourists. And the revenue is through tourism is also very high. And if we can reshape our tourism structure, there will be tremendous improvement in this field. In Kerala, we have only 17,000 of rooms only, whereas in Bali it is 46,000 rooms. So like that, many comparisons are there. So what I request is that to move forward, every state has its own peculiarity. We cannot be like Bihar. We cannot be like Uttar Pradesh. We cannot be like Karnataka or Tamil Nadu. We have our own specific characteristics, and we cannot do away with that specific characteristics. And here we don't have that much land available. The density of population is very high, as you all know. Then the thing is that we have to develop tourism. And when we talk about tourism, the northern side of Kerala is not getting explored. There is also one of the major issues. This northern side is not getting explored, and tourism is mainly concentrated on the southern side of Kerala and middle of Kerala. And this approach has to be redefined. And I request the Honorable Union Finance Minister to see these things in a positive way. And as we all know, India is, all Indians are brothers and sisters. And I hope Kerala will also find a place in your heart. And with these words, I would like to conclude my speech. And I take this opportunity once again to express my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of the event. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shri Santosh Kumar, for that fervent and honest expression of your perspectives. I would now like to invite for his presidential address, Shri V. Muralidharan, Honorable Union Minister of State for External Affairs and Parliamentary Affairs.
Kerala Kaumudi ആഭിമുഖ്യത്തിൽ ഇന്നിവിടെ സംഘടിപ്പിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ഈ എക്കണോമിക് കോൺക്ലേവ് എമർജിംഗ് ഭാരത് ഗ്രോയിങ് കേരള ഈ പരിപാടിയിൽ വേദിയിൽ സന്നിഹിതയായിട്ടുള്ള ബഹുമാന്യയായിട്ടുള്ള കേന്ദ്ര ധനകാര്യമന്ത്രി ശ്രീമതി നിർമ്മല സീതാരാമൻ അവർകൾ, രാജ്യസഭയിൽ എൻ്റെ സഹപ്രവർത്തകൻ ശ്രീ പി സന്തോഷ് കുമാർ, കേരള കൗമുദിയുടെ ചീഫ് എഡിറ്റർ ശ്രീ ദീപു രവി, മറ്റ് സദസ്സിലുള്ള ബഹുമാന്യരെ, സുഹൃത്തുക്കളെ, എല്ലാവർക്കും നമസ്കാരം. ഞാൻ മലയാളത്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കുന്നത് നിർമ്മല സീതാരാമൻ തമിഴ്നാട്ടുകാരിയാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് മലയാളത്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കുന്നവർക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ കഴിയും. ബാക്കി നമുക്കെല്ലാവർക്കും മലയാളം അറിയാം. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലേക്ക് പോകാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നില്ല. വളരെ അർത്ഥവത്തായിട്ടുള്ള കാലിക പ്രസക്തിയുള്ള ഒരു ടൈറ്റിൽ ആണ് ഇന്ന് ഈ വിഷയത്തിൽ കേരള കൗമുദി സ്വീകരിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത്. എമർജിംഗ് ഭാരത്, ഗ്രോയിങ് കേരള. സന്തോഷ് കുമാർ ഉന്നയിച്ച കാര്യം പലതവണ കേട്ടിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യമാണ്. കാരണം സന്തോഷ് കുമാറും സുഹൃത്തുക്കളും പലപ്പോഴും പറയാറുള്ളത് ഇന്ത്യ ഉണ്ടായത് 2014 എന്നാണ്. ഒരിക്കലുമല്ല. ഇന്ത്യ 1947 പോലും അല്ല ഉണ്ടായത്. ഇന്ത്യ അതിനു മുൻപേ ഉണ്ട്. എത്രയോ കാലങ്ങളായിട്ട് ഈ രാജ്യം ഒരു രാജ്യം എന്നുള്ള സങ്കല്പത്തിൽ ഉണ്ട്. ഇന്ത്യയുടെ അങ്ങേയറ്റം മുതൽ ഹിമാലയം മുതൽ കന്യാകുമാരി വരെയുള്ള ഇന്ത്യയുടെ നിലനിൽപ്പിനെ കുറിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള സംശയങ്ങൾ നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലുള്ള ആർക്കും അന്നു മുതലില്ല. പക്ഷേ ഇന്ത്യ ഒരു സ്വതന്ത്ര രാഷ്ട്രമായത് 1947 അവിടെ നിന്ന് ഇങ്ങോട്ട് ഇന്ത്യ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ധാരാളം പുരോഗതി കൈവരിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഈ കഴിഞ്ഞ വർഷത്തെ സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യദിന പ്രസംഗത്തിൽ 2022 ഇന്ത്യ സ്വാതന്ത്ര്യം നേടി 75 വർഷം പൂർത്തിയായ ഘട്ടത്തിൽ ഉൾപ്പെടെ പ്രധാനമന്ത്രി നരേന്ദ്രമോദിജി ചെങ്കോട്ടയിൽ നടത്തിയ പ്രസംഗത്തിൽ അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞത്, വി ഹാവ് ഡെഫിനറ്റ്ലി പ്രോഗ്രസ്ഡ്, വി ഹാവ് ഗ്രോൺ from what we were in 1947, and all prime ministers and governments at the center and states have contributed to that. പ്രശ്നം അതല്ല. പ്രശ്നം ഇന്ത്യ എന്നുള്ള രാഷ്ട്രം സ്വതന്ത്ര രാഷ്ട്രമായിട്ട് രൂപം കൊണ്ടത് 1947 ആണെങ്കിലും ഈ രാജ്യം ലോകരാഷ്ട്രങ്ങളുമായിട്ട് കിടപിടിക്കാവുന്ന തരത്തിലേക്കുള്ള ഒരു വളർച്ചയ്ക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള ദിശാബോധത്തോടു കൂടിയിട്ടുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനം, ആ പ്രവർത്തനം ഉണ്ടായത് 2014 എന്നുള്ള കാര്യം ഒരു സംശയമില്ലാതെ ഏത് വേദിയിലും പറയാൻ കഴിയുന്നതാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത്. കാരണം അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഒരു ദശാബ്ദക്കാലത്തിനിടയിൽ $2 ട്രില്യൺ നിന്ന് നമ്മുടെ സമ്പദ് വ്യവസ്ഥ 3.75 ട്രില്യൺ ആയിട്ട് വളർന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മുടെ ആളോഹരി വരുമാനം 10 വർഷം കൊണ്ട് 68,000 രൂപയിൽ നിന്ന് ഏതാണ്ട് 1,80,000 രൂപയായത്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മുടെ ക്യാപിറ്റൽ എക്സ്പെൻഡിച്ചർ 3.3 ലക്ഷം കോടിയിൽ നിന്ന് 10 ലക്ഷം കോടിയായത്. ഇതിൽ രാജ്യവ്യാപകമായിട്ടുള്ള വളർച്ച ഉണ്ടായിട്ടുണ്ട്, പുരോഗതി ഉണ്ടായിട്ടുണ്ട്. കേരളം തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ നേട്ടങ്ങൾ ഒരുപക്ഷെ നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യത്തെ മറ്റൊരു സംസ്ഥാനത്തിനും അവകാശപ്പെടാൻ കഴിയാത്ത നിരവധി നേട്ടങ്ങൾ കേരളത്തിനുണ്ട്. കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ രംഗം, കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ആരോഗ്യരംഗം, കേരളത്തിലെ പൊതുശുചിത്വ ബോധം ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള നിരവധി കാര്യങ്ങൾ. പക്ഷെ ഇതെല്ലാം കേരളം ഭരിച്ച സർക്കാരുകളുടെ ശ്രമഫലമാണ് എന്നാരെങ്കിലും പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത് സാമാന്യ ബോധമുള്ള മലയാളിക്കാർക്കും ദഹിക്കാൻ പറ്റാത്തൊരു കാര്യമാണ്. കാരണം 1956 മുൻപും ഇതിൻ്റെയൊക്കെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ പലതും നടന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. നമ്മുടെ ഒരു നൂറ്റാണ്ട് മുൻപ് അന്നത്തെ മഹാരാജാക്കന്മാർ വാക്സിൻ കൊണ്ടുവന്ന നാടാണ് കേരളം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അന്നത്തെ തിരുവിതാംകൂർ. അപ്പോൾ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ആരോഗ്യ മേഖലയിലുള്ള വളർച്ചയും കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ മേഖലയിലുള്ള വളർച്ചയും കേരളത്തിലെ സാമൂഹ്യ പരിഷ്കർത്താക്കൾ സൃഷ്ടിച്ച പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളുടെ അടിത്തറയിൽ അതിൽ ശ്രീനാരായണ ഗുരുദേവനെ പോലെയുള്ള ആളുകൾ, മറ്റ് നിരവധി മതനേതാക്കന്മാർ, ക്രൈസ്തവ പുരോഹിതന്മാർ ഉൾപ്പെടെ നടത്തിയിട്ടുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ, ഇതൊക്കെ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ഈ പറഞ്ഞ പല മേഖലകളിലുള്ള സാമൂഹ്യ സൂചികകളെ മുന്നോട്ട് നയിക്കുന്നതിൽ വളരെ നിർണായകമായിട്ടുള്ള പങ്ക് വഹിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു കാര്യമാണ്. പക്ഷെ ഇതൊക്കെ പറയുമ്പോഴും എന്താണ് സർക്കാരുകൾ കേരളത്തിൽ അനുവർത്തിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള മാതൃക? കേരളം ഭരിച്ചവർ. കാരണം ഈ വളർച്ച, ഇവിടെ ഇപ്പോൾ കേരള കൗമുദി ചർച്ച ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ കേരളത്തിലെ സാമൂഹ്യ പരിഷ്കർത്താക്കൾ വഹിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള പങ്കിനെ കുറിച്ചാണ് ചർച്ചയെങ്കിൽ വേദിയിലിരിക്കേണ്ടത് ഈ 3 പേരുമല്ല, വേറെ പല ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ആണ് ഈ വേദിയിലിരിക്കേണ്ടത്. ഈ വേദിയിലിരിക്കുന്നത് ലീഡേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ് ആണ്. ഗവർണൻസിലൂടെ എങ്ങനെ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ പുരോഗതി, രാജ്യത്തിൻ്റെ പുരോഗതി മുന്നോട്ട് നയിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് സാധിച്ചു, അതിനുള്ള ശ്രമങ്ങൾ എന്തുണ്ടായി? കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ഇന്നത്തെ സ്ഥിതി പരിശോധിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ ആളുകൾ തൊഴിൽ തേടി അന്യ സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങളിലേക്കും അന്യ രാജ്യങ്ങളിലേക്കും പോകുന്ന സംസ്ഥാനമായിട്ട് ഇന്നും കേരളം നിൽക്കുകയാണ്. തൊഴിൽ തേടി പോവുകയാണ്, ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെന്റിന് നടത്താൻ വേണ്ടി പോകുന്ന ആൾക്കാരല്ല. ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ്മെന്റ് നടത്താൻ മറ്റ് രാജ്യങ്ങളിലേക്ക് പോകുന്ന ആൾക്കാർ പലരും മറ്റു പല സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങളിലൊക്കെ പോകുന്നുണ്ട്. കേരളത്തിൽ നിന്നും പോകുന്നുണ്ട്, കുറവാണ്. തൊഴിൽ തേടിയാണ് പോകുന്നത്. ആ തൊഴിൽ തേടി പോകുന്ന ആളുകളിൽ ബ്ലൂ കോളർ തൊട്ട് ടെക്നോക്രാറ്റ്സ് വരെയുള്ള എല്ലാവരും ഉണ്ട്. എന്തുകൊണ്ടത് സംഭവിക്കുന്നു? അതിനെയാണോ നമ്മൾ ഗ്രോത്ത് എന്ന് പറയേണ്ടത്? ആ സാഹചര്യം മാറ്റേണ്ടതല്ലേ? ഇപ്പോൾ ശ്രീ സന്തോഷ് കുമാർ തന്നെ ഇവിടെ വളരെ പ്രസക്തമായിട്ടുള്ള 2 മേഖലകൾ അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞു, 3 മേഖലകൾ: ടൂറിസം, നോളജ് എക്കോണമി, കൂട്ടത്തിൽ അദ്ദേഹം നഴ്സിംഗിൻ്റെ മേഖലയും കൂടി പറഞ്ഞു. ടൂറിസം തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയൊരു ശക്തിയാണ്, അതൊരു വലിയ സ്ട്രെങ്താണ് നമ്മുടെ. ഒരുപക്ഷെ ലോകത്തിൻ്റെ ഏത് ഭാഗത്ത് പോകുമ്പോഴും ആ ഭാഗത്തുള്ള ആളുകളെ ആരെങ്കിലും കേരളത്തിൽ വന്നിട്ടുള്ള ആൾക്കാരാണെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ മലയാളിയാണ്, കേരളത്തിൽ നിന്നാണ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ അവർ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രകൃതി ഭംഗിയെക്കുറിച്ച് 2 സെൻറ്റൻസെങ്കിലും എന്നോട് പറയാത്തവരായിട്ട് ആരുമില്ല. പക്ഷെ അതിനെ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ സമ്പദ് വ്യവസ്ഥയ്ക്ക് പ്രയോജനപ്രദമാകാൻ, കേരളത്തിലെ ചെറുപ്പക്കാർക്ക് തൊഴിൽ സാഹചര്യങ്ങൾ സൃഷ്ടിക്കാൻ അതിനുള്ള നയപരിപാടികൾ ആവിഷ്കരിക്കുന്നതിൽ എത്രമാത്രം സർക്കാരുകൾക്ക് സാധിക്കുന്നു? ടൂറിസത്തിന് ഇൻഫ്രാസ്ട്രക്ചർ വേണം, ടൂറിസത്തിനെ പിന്തുണയ്ക്കുന്ന സമീപനങ്ങൾ വേണം. ലോക ടൂറിസം ദിവസത്തിൽ ഹർത്താൽ നടത്തി ആഘോഷിച്ച ആളുകളാണ് നമ്മൾ. ലോക ടൂറിസം ആ ദിവസം തന്നെയാണ് നമ്മൾ ഹർത്താൽ നടത്തിയത്. വേറെ അപ്പുറത്ത് അതിൻ്റെ തൊട്ട് മുമ്പ്, ഒരു ദിവസം മുമ്പ്, ഒരു ദിവസം ശേഷവും മാത്രമല്ല, ആ ദിവസം. എന്നാൽ ആ ദിവസമെങ്കിലും, ടൂറിസത്തിൻ്റെ ദിവസമെങ്കിലും ഈ ഹർത്താൽ നടത്തുന്നത് ഒരു ദിവസത്തേക്ക് മാറ്റിവെക്കുന്നതിനെ കുറിച്ച് നമുക്ക് കിട്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള ബോധം നമ്മളെ അനുവദിച്ചില്ല. ഉന്നത വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ മേഖലയിൽ വളർച്ച വേണം എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ ഓർമ്മ, ഞാൻ ഇത്തവണ പോയപ്പോൾ, ഞാനിപ്പോൾ കഴിഞ്ഞ ദിവസം നൈറോബിയിൽ നിന്നാണ് വന്നത്. നൈറോബിയിൽ നമ്മുടെ ഹൈക്കമ്മീഷണർ ആയിരുന്നു ശ്രീ ടി പി ശ്രീനിവാസൻ ഒരു ഉന്നത വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ സമ്മേളനത്തിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കാൻ ഇവിടെ കോവളത്ത് പോയപ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഉണ്ടായിട്ടുള്ള അനുഭവം നമുക്കറിയാം. അദ്ദേഹം അന്ന് ഹയർ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ കൗൺസിലിൻ്റെ ചെയർമാനായിരുന്നു കേരളത്തിൽ. നേരെ തലക്കടി കൊണ്ട ഒരു ഹയർ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ കൗൺസിൽ ചെയർമാൻ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ വേറെ എവിടെയും ഉണ്ടാവില്ല. പ്രതിഷേധമൊക്കെ ആവശ്യമാണ്, പ്രതിഷേധത്തിനെ കുറിച്ചൊന്നും ആർക്കും അഭിപ്രായ വ്യത്യാസമില്ല. പക്ഷെ ഇങ്ങനെയാണോ പ്രതിഷേധം ഉണ്ടാവേണ്ടത്? എങ്ങനെ ഹയർ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ്റെ നിലവാരം, എങ്ങനെ ഹയർ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷനിലെ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻസ് വളരും? ഇപ്പം കഴിഞ്ഞ ദിവസം തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ബഹുമാന്യനായിട്ടുള്ള മുഖ്യമന്ത്രി പറഞ്ഞത്, ഒരാളുടെ ജീവൻ രക്ഷിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് നടത്തിയ ഒരു പരിശ്രമത്തെ അദ്ദേഹം വളരെ കൂടുതൽ അഭിനന്ദിച്ചു. അങ്ങനെയാണ് എല്ലാവരും ചെയ്യേണ്ടതെന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞു. നിങ്ങൾ വീഡിയോ കണ്ടിട്ടുള്ള ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ഞാൻ എന്താ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് മനസ്സിലായിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പം നേതൃത്വം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, ഭരണ നേതൃത്വം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അവരുടെ നയങ്ങൾ, പരിപാടികൾ, ആ പരിപാടികൾ എങ്ങനെയായിരിക്കണം എന്നുള്ളതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് എൻ്റെ അഭിപ്രായത്തിൽ അതാണ് ഈ കൗമുദിയുടെ ചർച്ചയുടെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട വിഷയം. നഴ്സിംഗ് കോളേജുകളുടെ കാര്യം വരുമ്പോൾ, കേരളത്തിൽ നിന്നുള്ള നഴ്സുമാരില്ലാത്ത ആശുപത്രികൾ ഒരുപക്ഷെ ലോകത്തുണ്ടാവില്ല. പക്ഷേ ഞാൻ ഈ കഴിഞ്ഞ ദിവസം ഞാൻ വായിച്ച എനിക്ക് കിട്ടിയ ഒരു വിവരം അനുസരിച്ച് നോൺ ടീച്ചിങ് ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻസിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നോൺ ടീച്ചിങ് ഹോസ്പിറ്റൽസിൽ നഴ്സിംഗ് പഠിപ്പിക്കാനുള്ള സാഹചര്യം, അതിനുള്ള അവസരം, ആ അവസരം ഏറ്റവും പരിമിതമായിട്ടുള്ള തോതിൽ ഇന്ന് കേരളത്തിലാണുള്ളത്. മറ്റ് പല സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങളിലും അതിനുള്ള അവസരങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാകുമ്പോൾ ആ അവസരം കേരളത്തിൽ കുറയുന്നു. എന്തുകൊണ്ട് അത് പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിക്കുന്നില്ല? എന്തുകൊണ്ട് അതിന് അവസരം കിട്ടുന്നില്ല? തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഇന്നത്തെ ഈ വിഷയം ചർച്ച ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഫെഡറലിസത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് കൂടി പറയണം. കാരണം സഹകരണ ഫെഡറലിസത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും അതുപോലെ പ്രധാനമന്ത്രി നരേന്ദ്രമോദിയുടെ നേതൃത്വത്തിലുള്ള സർക്കാരിൻ്റെ നിലപാടുകളെക്കുറിച്ചുമൊക്കെ രാജ്യത്തെ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ തെറ്റിദ്ധാരണ പരത്തപ്പെട്ടിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സംസ്ഥാനമാണ് കേരളം. ഞാൻ ഇന്ന് രാവിലെ ബഹുമാന്യയായിട്ടുള്ള നിർമ്മല സീതാരാമൻ ആറ്റിങ്ങിലെ ഒരു പരിപാടിയിൽ പങ്കെടുത്തു. അവർ നടത്തിയ പ്രസംഗത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് കേരളത്തിലെ ചില ചാനലുകളിൽ വന്ന വാർത്ത ധനകാര്യമന്ത്രി കേരളത്തിനെതിരെ എന്നാണ് ഹെഡിങ്. ധനകാര്യമന്ത്രി കേരളത്തിനെതിരെ പറയുന്നത്, അതായത് ഇവിടുത്തെ ഈ സർക്കാരിൻ്റെ നയങ്ങളെ വിമർശിക്കുന്നത് കേരളത്തിനെതിരെ എന്ന് വ്യാഖ്യാനിക്കപ്പെടുന്ന ഒരു സാഹചര്യം. അതിൽ പലപ്പോഴും എനിക്കെതിരായിട്ടും ഉയരുന്ന ഇതാണ് കേരള വിരോധിയാണ് ഞാൻ. കേരളത്തിലെ സർക്കാരിൻ്റെ നയങ്ങളോട്, കാരണം ആയിരക്കണക്കിന് ചെറുപ്പക്കാർ, ലക്ഷക്കണക്കിന് ചെറുപ്പക്കാർ കേരളം വിട്ടുപോകുന്ന, തൊഴിലിന് വേണ്ടി പോകുന്ന സാഹചര്യം ഉണ്ടാകുന്നതിന് തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും എനിക്ക് ഏറ്റവും വിഷമമുണ്ട്. ആ നയങ്ങൾ മാറണം, തിരുത്തപ്പെടണം, കേരളത്തിൽ വ്യവസായങ്ങൾ വളരണം. ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മുടെ തിരുവനന്തപുരത്തെ വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട, ഞാൻ താമസിക്കുന്നത് ഉള്ളൂരിലാണ്, തൊട്ടപ്പുറത്താണ് ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ഇന്ത്യ ക്ലേസ്. ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ഇന്ത്യ ക്ലേസ് ഒരു 500 കോടിയുടെ ടേൺ ഓവർ ഉള്ള ഒരു ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനാണ്, ഒരു ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയാണ്. 500 കോടിയുടെ ടേൺ ഓവർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ 90 കോടി രൂപ GSTയിൽ കേരളത്തിന് വരുമാനം കിട്ടും. ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ഇന്ത്യ ക്ലേസ് പൂട്ടിയിട്ടിട്ട് കുറച്ച് കാലങ്ങളായി, വർഷങ്ങളായി. അത് തുറക്കാൻ എന്തുകൊണ്ട് സാധിക്കുന്നില്ല? അതിന് ഉള്ള നടപടികൾ, അതിനുള്ള ശ്രമങ്ങൾ സംസ്ഥാനത്ത് നിന്ന് എത്രമാത്രം സജീവമായിട്ട് ഉണ്ടാകുന്നു? അപ്പൊ ഇങ്ങനെ ഉള്ള നിരവധി വിഷയങ്ങൾ മാത്രമല്ല, നമ്മൾ ഈ ടൂറിസത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും ഇതൊക്കെ പറയുമ്പോൾ തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞ ഒരു 4 ദിവസമായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ അനുഭവിക്കുന്ന സ്ഥിതി നമുക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം. ഒരു മഴ പെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മൾ ഈ ടൂറിസ്റ്റുകൾക്ക് സ്വിമ്മിംഗ് പൂൾ വരെ അന്വേഷിച്ചു പോകേണ്ടി വരില്ല. എന്തുകൊണ്ട് അങ്ങനെ സംഭവിക്കുന്നു? തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത് എന്തുകൊണ്ട് സംഭവിക്കുന്നു? ഒരു മഴ പെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ തിരുവനന്തപുരത്തിൻ്റെ സ്ഥിതി ഇങ്ങനെയാവുന്ന ഒരു സാഹചര്യം. ആരാ അതിന് പരിഹാരം ഉണ്ടാക്കേണ്ടത്? ആ പരിഹാരം ഉണ്ടാക്കേണ്ട ആളുകൾ എവിടെയാണ് ഇപ്പോൾ ഉള്ളത്? തിരുവനന്തപുരത്ത് ഭരണസ്ഥിരാ കേന്ദ്രം എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഈ സ്ഥലത്ത് ഒരൊറ്റ മന്ത്രിയില്ല. ഒരു പേരിനൊരു മന്ത്രിയെങ്കിലും ഇവിടെ നിർത്തണ്ടേ? ആ മന്ത്രിക്ക് മാറിയിട്ട് മന്ത്രിമാർ വന്നോട്ടെ. ഇവിടെ ഒരു ആഴ്ചയിൽ ഒരു മന്ത്രി ഇരിക്കട്ടെ, അടുത്ത ആഴ്ച വേറൊരു മന്ത്രി ഇരിക്കട്ടെ. അറ്റ്ലീസ്റ്റ് ഒരാളെങ്കിലും ടു ഹോൾഡ് ദ ഫോർട്ട് എന്ന് ഇംഗ്ലീഷിൽ പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഇതുണ്ടല്ലോ, ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ ചുമതല നോക്കാൻ. അപ്പൊ ഇതിനെയാണ് ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത്. ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു സാഹചര്യത്തിലാണോ മുന്നോട്ട് പോകേണ്ടത്? പ്രധാനമന്ത്രി നരേന്ദ്രമോദിജി ഫെഡറലിസം, സഹകരണ ഫെഡറലിസം, ടീം ഇന്ത്യ എന്നുള്ള കാഴ്ചപ്പാടിനെ എക്കാലത്തും പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ആളാണ്. ഞാനൊരു ഒറ്റ ഉദാഹരണം പറയാം. സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങൾക്കുള്ള ധനവിഹിതം 2004-2014 വരെ ആ കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ 30 ലക്ഷം കോടിയായിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ 2014-2023 അത് 100 ലക്ഷം കോടിയായി. സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങളുടെ അവകാശങ്ങൾ അട്ടിമറിക്കാൻ കേന്ദ്ര സർക്കാർ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു ഉദ്ദേശത്തോടു കൂടിയിട്ടുള്ള പ്രവർത്തനവും നടത്തിയിട്ടുള്ള സർക്കാരല്ല കേന്ദ്രത്തിലുള്ളത്. ഓരോ സംസ്ഥാനത്തിൻ്റെയും അടിസ്ഥാന സൗകര്യ വികസനങ്ങൾ, ഉദാഹരണത്തിന് കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ അടിസ്ഥാന സൗകര്യങ്ങളുടെ വികസനത്തിൽ ഇത്രയധികം ദ്രുതഗതിയിലുള്ള വികസനം, ആ വികസനം നടന്നിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു കാലഘട്ടം നമുക്ക് വേറെ ഉണ്ടോ? കേരളത്തിൽ കഴിഞ്ഞ 9 വർഷക്കാലത്തിനിടയിൽ 3 ലക്ഷം കോടിയിലധികം രൂപയുടെ പദ്ധതികൾ, അതിന് മുൻപത്തെ 10 കൊല്ലമായിട്ട് താരതമ്യം ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ അന്ന് കിട്ടിയതിൻ്റെ 4.5 ഇരട്ടിയാണ് കിട്ടിയത്. കേരളത്തിലെ ദേശീയപാതകളിലെ നിർമ്മാണം, നമ്മുടെ മാധ്യമങ്ങളിൽ പലപ്പോഴും പലരും നടത്തുന്ന ചർച്ച, ഈ സ്ഥലമേറ്റെടുക്കലിൻ്റെ 25% സംസ്ഥാനം വഹിക്കുന്നു. അത് നമ്മൾ മാത്രമാണ് വഹിക്കുന്നതെന്നാണ് കേരളത്തിലെ എല്ലാവരോടും സ്ഥിരമായിട്ട് പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഞാൻ ബഹുമാന്യനായിട്ടുള്ള മുഖ്യമന്ത്രിയും നമ്മുടെ ഗതാഗത വകുപ്പിൻ്റെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അടിസ്ഥാന സൗകര്യങ്ങളുടെ ഒക്കെ ചുമതല വഹിക്കുന്ന, ഉപരിതല ഗതാഗത വകുപ്പിൻ്റെ ചുമതല വഹിക്കുന്ന ശ്രീ നിതിൻ ഗഡ്കരിജിയും കൂടി പങ്കെടുത്ത ചടങ്ങിൽ ഞാൻ ഒരു തവണ പറഞ്ഞു, കർണാടക എത്ര ശതമാനം എടുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, ബീഹാർ എത്ര ശതമാനം എടുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. രാജ്യത്തെ ഒട്ടുമിക്കവാറും സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങൾ 25, ചിലർ 20 ആയിരിക്കും, ചിലർ 30 ആയിരിക്കും. ഈ ഒരു 20-നും 30-നും ഇടയിലുള്ള ശതമാനം സ്ഥലമേറ്റെടുപ്പിന്റെ ശതമാനം എടുക്കുന്നതാണ്. പക്ഷേ കേരളത്തിൽ നടക്കുന്ന പ്രചരണം, കേന്ദ്ര സർക്കാർ കേരളത്തെ അർഹമായിട്ടുള്ളത് തരുന്നില്ല, അത് നിഷേധിക്കുന്നു. ഈ പശ്ചാത്തല വികസനത്തിന്റെ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ, കേരളത്തിലെ റെയിൽവേ വികസനത്തിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള അനുവദിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള തുക, ജൽജീവൻ മിഷൻ, ശൗചാലയങ്ങൾ, അങ്ങനെയുള്ള നിരവധി കാര്യങ്ങൾ. ഗെയിൽ പൈപ്പ് ലൈൻ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അഭിനന്ദിക്കേണ്ടതാണ്. കാരണം നമുക്കെല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയാം എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഗെയിൽ പൈപ്പ് ലൈൻ നേരത്തെ മുടങ്ങിപ്പോയത്, ഇപ്പം എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് നടക്കുന്നത്. കാരണം ക്ലാസ്സിൽ ഏറ്റവും കുഴപ്പം കാണിക്കുന്ന കുട്ടിയെ മോണിറ്റർ ആക്കുന്ന ഒരു സംവിധാനമുണ്ട്. കാരണം ഇവനാണ് കുഴപ്പക്കാരനെങ്കിൽ അവനെ മോണിറ്റർ ആക്കുക, അപ്പൊ പിന്നെ ആരും കുഴപ്പമുണ്ടാക്കില്ല. അപ്പോൾ കേരളം തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും വളരണം. പക്ഷെ കേരളം വളരണമെങ്കിൽ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ബേസിക്സ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ കേരളത്തിലെ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസമാണ്. നമുക്ക് വലിയ വ്യവസായങ്ങൾക്ക് സാധ്യത വളരെ കുറവാണ്. ഞാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞ ദിവസം ജപ്പാനിലുണ്ടായപ്പോൾ ജപ്പാനിൽ സുസുക്കിയുടെയും മിറ്റ്സുയുടെയും ഒക്കെ ആൾക്കാർ വന്നു. അപ്പോൾ മീറ്റിംഗ് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഡിന്നറിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ഒരുമിച്ച് ഒരു ടേബിളിൻ്റെ ചുറ്റും ഇരുന്നപ്പോൾ എന്നോട് ചോദിച്ചു, യു ആർ ഫ്രം കേരള, വാട്ട് ഈസ് ദ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി വാട്ട് ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി ക്യാൻ വി ഇൻവെസ്റ്റ് ഇൻ കേരള? ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു, കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ പരിമിതികൾ പലതുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പോൾ ഉദാഹരണത്തിന് കേരളത്തിന് ലാൻഡ് ഒരു വലിയ പ്രശ്നമാണ്. അത് ഒരു ഗവൺമെൻറ് വിചാരിച്ചാൽ അതിൽ മാറ്റം വരുത്താൻ പറ്റില്ല. അപ്പോൾ ഭൂമി പരിമിതമായതുകൊണ്ട് നമുക്ക് വൻകിട വ്യവസായങ്ങൾ നമുക്ക് സാധിക്കില്ല. പക്ഷേ നമുക്ക് ധാരാളം കോമ്പോണൻസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള MSME നമുക്ക് പ്രോത്സാഹിപ്പിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കും. ഇപ്പോൾ പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് പുതിയ ഡിഫൻസ് കോറിഡോർ, കോയമ്പത്തൂർ ചെന്നൈ ഡിഫൻസ് കോറിഡോർ വരുന്നു. ആ കോറിഡോറിലേക്കുള്ള വൻകിട വ്യവസായങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള നിരവധി കോമ്പോണൻസ് നമുക്ക് കേരളത്തിൽ ഉൽപ്പാദിപ്പിക്കാൻ പറ്റും, കേരളത്തിൽ കണ്ടെത്താൻ പറ്റും. അതിനുള്ള മാൻ പവർ സാധിക്കും. ഞാൻ അവരോട് പറഞ്ഞു, ജപ്പാനിൽ 12 കോടി ജനങ്ങളുള്ള ജപ്പാനിൽ 40,000 ഇന്ത്യക്കാരേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഒരുപക്ഷെ ലോകത്തിലെ വികസിത രാഷ്ട്രങ്ങളെയൊക്കെ താരതമ്യം ചെയ്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, ശതമാന കണക്ക് നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഏറ്റവും കുറഞ്ഞ ശതമാനമുള്ള രാജ്യമാണ് ജപ്പാൻ. ടെക്നോളജിയിൽ ലോകത്തിലെ നേതൃത്വത്തിലുള്ള ലീഡേഴ്സാണ് ജപ്പാൻ. മാൻ പവറിൽ നമ്മളാണ് ഏറ്റവും വലിയ ശക്തി, ഇന്ത്യയാണ് ഏറ്റവും വലിയ ശക്തി. ആ ഇന്ത്യയിൽ തന്നെ മലയാളിയുടെ മാൻ പവർ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സ്കിൽഡ് മാൻ പവർ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന കാര്യത്തിൽ മലയാളിയുടെ ബുദ്ധിശേഷിയെക്കുറിച്ച്, കഠിനാധ്വാനത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് ആർക്കും സംശയമില്ല. പക്ഷേ ജാപ്പനീസ് ഭാഷ, ഞാൻ അവരോട് പറഞ്ഞു, നിങ്ങൾ കേരളത്തിലെ 5 പട്ടണം നിങ്ങൾ ഐഡന്റിഫൈ ചെയ്ത് അഡോപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, അവിടെ ജാപ്പനീസ് ഭാഷ പഠിപ്പിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ കേരളത്തിലുള്ള ധാരാളം ചെറുപ്പക്കാർക്ക് അവിടെ തൊഴിലവസരം കിട്ടും. ഹൈ എൻഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റീസ്. അപ്പൊ മാൻ പവർ നമ്മുടെ ഒരു വലിയ സ്ട്രെങ്ത് ആണ്. പക്ഷെ ആ മാൻ പവർ സ്ട്രെങ്തിനെ ഇന്നത്തെ ഭാവി ലോകത്തിന്റെ ആവശ്യങ്ങൾ കണ്ടറിഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് അതനുസരിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ആളുകളെ കണ്ടെത്താൻ, ആളുകൾക്ക് പരിശീലനം നൽകാൻ ഉള്ള എന്ത് പദ്ധതി നമ്മൾ ആവിഷ്കരിക്കുന്നു? പ്രധാനമന്ത്രി നരേന്ദ്രമോദിജി പറയുന്നത് വി ഹാവ് ടു ബിക്കം ദ സ്കിൽ ക്യാപിറ്റൽ ഓഫ് ദ വേൾഡ് എന്നാണ്. അതിൽ ആ സ്കിൽ ക്യാപിറ്റൽ ഓഫ് ദ വേൾഡ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിൻ്റെ ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കേന്ദ്രമായിട്ട് മാറാൻ കഴിയുന്ന സംസ്ഥാനം കേരളമാണ്. ഈ കഴിഞ്ഞ ദിവസം ഞാനൊരു നെഹ്റു യുവ കേന്ദ്ര സംഘടിപ്പിച്ച ഒരു ജോബ് എക്സ്പോയിൽ പോയി. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് വന്നപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ചോദിച്ചു എത്ര ആൾക്കാർക്ക് തൊഴിൽ കിട്ടി. 6000 പേര് രജിസ്റ്റർ ചെയ്തു. 4000 കമ്പനികൾ പറഞ്ഞത് ഞങ്ങളുടെ കയ്യിൽ 4000 ഒഴിവുണ്ടെന്ന്. പക്ഷെ അവസാനം ജോലി കിട്ടിയത് 2000 പേർക്കാണ്. കാരണം എന്താ വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ബാക്കിയുള്ള ജോലിക്ക് ആവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള ആളുകൾ, അതിൻ്റെ കേപ്പബിലിറ്റി, അതിനുള്ള സ്കിൽസ് ഉള്ള ആൾക്കാർ ഈ വന്ന ആൾക്കാരിലില്ല. അപ്പൊ നമ്മുടെ ആ സ്കിൽ ഗ്യാപ്പ് കണ്ടെത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് ഗ്ലോബൽ റിക്വയർമെന്റിന് അനുസരിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള സ്കിൽ ഗ്യാപ്പ് കണ്ടെത്തി അവർക്ക് പരിശീലനം നൽകാനുള്ള ശ്രമങ്ങൾ. സന്തോഷ് കുമാർ പറഞ്ഞത് വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു വിഷയമാണ് നഴ്സിംഗിന്റെ മേഖല. കാരണം ലോകത്തെ എല്ലാ സ്ഥലത്തും നഴ്സുമാർ വേണം. പക്ഷെ നഴ്സുമാർ വേണമെങ്കിൽ ജർമ്മൻ പഠിച്ച നഴ്സുമാർ വേണം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ജാപ്പനീസ് പഠിച്ച നഴ്സുമാർ വേണം, കൊറിയൻ അവർ പഠിപ്പിക്കുക. അല്ല, അവർ പഠിച്ച ആൾക്കാരില്ലെങ്കിൽ വേറെ ആരും പഠിച്ച ആൾക്കാർ വേറെ സ്ഥലത്ത് പോകും. ഫിലിപ്പീൻസിൽ നിന്ന് പോവും, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ശ്രീലങ്കയിൽ നിന്ന് പോവും. ഇപ്പൊ ബംഗ്ലാദേശിൽ നിന്ന് അടക്കം പോയിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക, നേപ്പാളിൽ നിന്നടക്കം. ജപ്പാനിൽ 2 ലക്ഷം നേപ്പാളികൾ, 40,000 ഇന്ത്യക്കാർ. അതാണ് ജപ്പാനിലെ കണക്ക്. ആ സ്കിൽഡ് മാൻ പവർ, സ്കിൽ അപ്ഗ്രഡേഷൻ, സ്കില്ലിംഗ്, റീസ്കില്ലിംഗ്, അപ്സ്കില്ലിംഗ്, അതിനുവേണ്ടി പറ്റുന്ന വിധത്തിൽ കേരളത്തിലെ വിദ്യാഭ്യാസ സംവിധാനത്തെ മാറ്റാൻ നമ്മുടെ പദ്ധതികൾ എങ്ങനെയായിരിക്കണം? ഒന്ന്, ടൂറിസം. ആ ടൂറിസത്തിന്റെ മേഖലയിൽ കേരളത്തിൽ വൻകിട ഹോട്ടലുകളൊന്നും ആവശ്യമില്ല. സാധാരണ കേരളത്തിലെ ഗ്രാമപ്രദേശങ്ങളിൽ താമസിക്കാൻ സന്നദ്ധരായിട്ടും താല്പര്യത്തോടു കൂടിയും വരുന്ന നിരവധി വിദേശികൾ ഉണ്ടാവും. പക്ഷെ ഫെസിലിറ്റീസ് വേണം, അവിടെ ഇൻഫ്രാസ്ട്രക്ചർ വേണം, അവിടെ രാത്രിയും പകലും പുറത്തിറങ്ങി നടക്കാൻ പറ്റണം. കാരണം നമ്മുടെ തിരുവനന്തപുരത്തെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയൊരു ഇതായിട്ട് ഞാൻ ഈ കഴിഞ്ഞ ദിവസം ഒരു സർവേ പറയുന്നത് പട്ടിയുടെ ശല്യമാണെന്നാണ്. പുറത്തിറങ്ങി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്ക് സുരക്ഷിതമായിട്ട് നടക്കാൻ പറ്റുമെന്നറിയില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള സ്ഥലത്ത് ടൂറിസ്റ്റുകൾ എങ്ങനെ വരും? അതിനുള്ള പരിഹാരം കണ്ടെത്തണം. അപ്പോൾ ഇൻഫ്രാസ്ട്രക്ചർ, ഫിസിക്കൽ ഇൻഫ്രാസ്ട്രക്ചർ വേണം, ബാക്കിയുള്ള സൗകര്യങ്ങൾ വേണം. അപ്പോൾ ഈ തരത്തിലുള്ള മേഖലകളിൽ കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ ശക്തി എന്താണ് എന്ന് തിരിച്ചറിഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് കേരളത്തിന് ഏതൊക്കെ മേഖലകളിൽ പുരോഗതിയിലേക്ക് നീങ്ങാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് സഹായിക്കാൻ കഴിയും എന്ന് തിരിച്ചറിഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് തിരിച്ചറിഞ്ഞ് അതനുസരിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളിൽ കേന്ദ്രീകരിക്കാൻ സാധിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും കേരളത്തിന് മുന്നോട്ട് പോകാൻ കഴിയും. അതോടൊപ്പമാണ് ചെറുകിട വ്യവസായങ്ങളും സംരംഭങ്ങളും. ഇപ്പം നമ്മുടെ കുടുംബശ്രീ നല്ലൊരു മോഡലാണ്. പക്ഷെ കുടുംബശ്രീ ദൗർഭാഗ്യവശാൽ ഇത്രയും വർഷം കഴിഞ്ഞതിന് ശേഷവും ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് ഓൺ ഇറ്റ്സ് ഓൺ ലെഗ്സ്. അതിപ്പോഴും ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ ഒരു സബ്സിസ്റ്റൻസ് കാരണം നടന്നു പോകുന്ന ഒരു പ്രവർത്തനമായിട്ട് നിൽക്കുകയാണ്. എത്ര എന്റർപ്രനേഴ്സ് അവിടുന്ന് പുറത്തു വന്നു, അവിടുന്ന് വളർന്നു വന്നു. എത്ര ആൾക്കാർ സ്വന്തം കാലിൽ നിൽക്കാവുന്നവരായിട്ട് സ്ത്രീകൾ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്തു വന്നു. ഒരു പോവർട്ടി എലിവേഷൻ എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ, ഒരു ആക്ടിവിറ്റി എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ, മൈക്രോ ക്രെഡിറ്റ് ആക്ടിവിറ്റി എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ 10,000 രൂപ പലിശ കുറഞ്ഞിട്ട് കിട്ടുന്ന ഒരു സ്ഥലമായിട്ട് നല്ല കാര്യമാണ്. അതിൽ നിന്ന് ധാരാളം ലീഡർഷിപ്പ് ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ അതിനപ്പുറത്ത് നമ്മുടെ സംരംഭങ്ങൾ വളർന്നു വരാൻ, കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ സാഹചര്യം മനസ്സിലാക്കി, കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രത്യേകതകൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കിയിട്ടുള്ള സംരംഭങ്ങൾ, അതിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള തയ്യാറെടുപ്പുകൾ. ബാക്കി ഈ കേരളത്തിന് കിട്ടേണ്ട പണത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും കിട്ടിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന പണത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും അതിൻ്റെ ശതമാനത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും ഒന്നും ഞാൻ പറയുന്നതിൻ്റെ ആവശ്യമില്ല. കാരണം തലയിരിക്കുമ്പോൾ വാലാടേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല. കാരണം ധനകാര്യമന്ത്രി തന്നെ നേരിട്ട് ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഞാൻ അതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് വിശദീകരിച്ച് ചെയ്യേണ്ട കാര്യമില്ല എന്ന് ഞാൻ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്നത് കൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ ആ കാര്യങ്ങളിലേക്ക് കടക്കുന്നില്ല. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഈ കേരളത്തിന് ധാരാളം സാധ്യതകൾ, പുരോഗതിക്കുള്ള സാധ്യതകൾ, വികസനത്തിനുള്ള സാധ്യതകൾ, ആ സാധ്യതകളുണ്ട്. ആ സാധ്യതകൾ പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുത്താനുള്ള നടപടികൾ, അത് രാഷ്ട്രീയ അഭിപ്രായ വ്യത്യാസങ്ങൾ മാറ്റിവെച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ആ സാധ്യതകൾ പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുത്താനുള്ള നടപടികൾ സംസ്ഥാന സർക്കാരിൻ്റെ ഭാഗത്തു നിന്ന് കൂടിയുണ്ടാവണം. കേന്ദ്ര സർക്കാരിൻ്റെ ഭാഗത്തു നിന്ന് ഇതുവരെ ഏതെങ്കിലും കാര്യത്തിൽ അത്തരത്തിൽ സംസ്ഥാനത്തിൻ്റെ ആവശ്യങ്ങൾ വേണ്ട രീതിയിൽ പരിഗണിച്ചില്ല എന്നുള്ള അഭിപ്രായങ്ങളുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ആ അഭിപ്രായങ്ങൾ തുറന്ന മനസ്സോടുകൂടി കേൾക്കുന്ന ഒരാളാണ് ബഹുമാന്യനായിട്ടുള്ള പ്രധാനമന്ത്രി എന്നുള്ള കാര്യത്തിൽ എനിക്ക് യാതൊരു സംശയവുമില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യം ലോകത്തിലെ ഇന്ന് 5ാമത്തെ എക്കണോമിക് പവർ എന്നുള്ള നിലയിൽ നിൽക്കുന്നു. അടുത്ത ഒരു 4-5 വർഷങ്ങൾക്കുള്ളിൽ നമ്മളൊരു 3ാമത്തെ സമ്പദ് വ്യവസ്ഥയായിട്ട് ഇന്ത്യ മാറും എന്നുള്ള പ്രതീക്ഷയിലാണ് നമ്മുടെ എക്കണോമിക് ഗ്രോത്തിൻ്റെ കണക്കുകൾ എടുത്ത് പരിശോധിക്കുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ കഴിയുന്നത്. അതോടൊപ്പം രാജ്യത്തെ ഒരു ഡെവലപ്ഡ് നേഷൻ എന്നുള്ള നിലയിലേക്ക് വളർത്താൻ 2047 കൂടിയിട്ട് ആ ഡെവലപ്ഡ് നേഷൻ എന്നുള്ള അവസ്ഥയിലേക്ക് എത്തിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള വിവിധ മേഖലകളിലുള്ള വരുത്തേണ്ട മാറ്റങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ച് ബഹുമാനനായിട്ടുള്ള പ്രധാനമന്ത്രി വളരെ വിശദമായിട്ടുള്ള അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ നേതൃത്വത്തിൽ ഉദ്യോഗസ്ഥന്മാർ ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള ആളുകളുടെ പങ്കാളിത്തത്തോടു കൂടിയിട്ടുള്ള രൂപരേഖ തയ്യാറാക്കി അതനുസരിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ആ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾ നടന്നുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു വികസിത രാഷ്ട്രത്തിന്റെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് കേരളവും അതനുസരിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള പുരോഗതി കൈവരിക്കാൻ ആവശ്യമായിട്ടുള്ള നടപടികൾ സംസ്ഥാനത്തെ ഭരണകർത്താക്കളിൽ നിന്നുകൂടി ഉണ്ടാകണം എന്ന് മാത്രം സൂചിപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ നിർത്തുന്നു. നമസ്കാരം.
Thank you, Sri V. Muralidharan, for shining light on the huge potential that exists for collaboration between the state government and the central government. Thank you once again. And I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Member of Parliament from Thiruvananthapuram, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, on stage. Welcome, sir. He'll be speaking to us in the next session. So gracious of you to join us on stage now. And now, I know all of you are eagerly waiting for the inaugural address by our chief guest, but before I invite her for that, I'd like Honorable Ma'am, to do a special honors on this stage. Yes. Yes, so before she comes for her inaugural address, we are going to honor and acknowledge 6 inspiring leaders on this stage. They are leaders who are continuing to contribute to Kerala's strides in progress, and let's take a look at the profiles of those 6 inspiring leaders whom the Honorable Minister will be honoring on the stage today.
George Jacob Muthoot, chairman of the Muthoot Group, is among the pioneers in the gold loan business in India. His contribution to the group over the past 40 years have been instrumental in expanding the brand's presence throughout the country and have taken the company closer to its vision of financial inclusion of all sections of the society. He is a member of several management and social forums. He is one of the advisory committee of Swasti Foundation. He is a recipient of the Business Excellence Award instituted by the Trivandrum Chamber of Commerce. He was also awarded the Golden Peacock Award and the JCI India Zone Business Leadership Award in 2020. A visionary and a person of values, the chairman has enabled the group to achieve exponential growth under his insightful leadership. Mr. Ajit Palat, founder and managing partner of Urban Grameen Society Gold Loan, started small. When he set up UGS Gold Loan, his chief focus was to make loans readily available and accessible to all. He was careful to keep the rules simple, mindful of his clients' apprehensions. Mr. Palat's vision and effort soon paid off as the UGS Gold Loan flourished and grew, becoming a trusted financial institution. Mr. Ajit Palat has won extensive acclaim for his achievements. Supra Pacific Financial Services is a BSE listed NBFC having its footprint in Mumbai, Kerala and Karnataka. The company is a financial supermarket with its core business in gold loans alongside other portfolios such as vehicle loan, SME lending, corporate loans and microfinance. Mr. Jobby George is a promoter, MD and CEO of the company. He was instrumental in acquiring, remodeling and designing the growth trajectory of Supra Pacific Financial Services. Ever since the company was acquired, the brought under his management control in 2019. Currently, the company has reached a total loan portfolio of close to 100 crores. DBFS was one of the first corporate brokerage in India, established in the year 1992. DBFS focuses on retail wealth management and non-banking financial services, enjoying strategic tie-up with the prestigious Doha Bank of Qatar. Under the astute leadership of Prince George, Managing Director, DBFS is stretching its horizons in terms of reach, product offering and customer delight. DBFS stands committed to traditional values while embracing technology and innovation. GITD is an organization working for the upliftment and empowerment of women from less fortunate circumstances through skills development. It is to GITD's credit that many of the women trained by the institution have their own highly fruitful startups. GITD assists these women in building small-scale ventures by providing entrepreneurial training and marketing their products through social media backup. Established over 17 years ago, the institution has 14 centers and has trained thousands of women. GITD has earned widespread recognition for its outstanding contributions in the field of job-oriented skill development courses. Adi Group of Institutions was established in 2014 as a skills training institutions by industry experts with a passion for providing real-time competency training in technical and management fields. Its vision and mission was to evolve as a renowned international label which crafts the next generation into professionally competent, socially committed, dynamic personalities capable of rising up to global demands. Adi Group imparts quality education with the help of upgraded academic infrastructure, ambience, faculty, on-site training and resource persons having global exposure. It grooms students into self-reliant, independent thinking, globally relevant individuals.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to present the Inspiring Leaders Honors on this stage. Our Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, will be doing the honors, and I'd like to invite Sri Deepu Ravi on stage before we present these honors. Welcome back on stage, sir. In the presence of the other dignitaries on stage, I'd like to bring on stage all our 6 inspiring leaders, one by one. Sri George Jacob Muthoot, Chairman of Muthoot Finance. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the inspiring leaders who are contributing towards Kerala's economic development, and the Kerala Kaumudi Group is proud to take this moment to acknowledge and appreciate their efforts towards our state. Thank you. Thank you, Sri George Jacob Muthoot. Bringing on stage now, Sri Ajit Palat, founder and managing partner of Urban Grameen Society. Bringing on stage next, Sri Joby George, Chairman and Managing Director of Supra Pacific. On stage next, Professor Joe T. Pampagil and Sri Samuel KV, Directors of DBFS. I'd like to bring on stage next Mr. Sri Kumar, Managing Director of GITD. And finally, Ms. Darshana Indirabai, Chief Operating Officer of Adi Group of Institutions. Once again, a heartfelt note of gratitude to all these 6 inspiring leaders for continuing to do the work that contributes to Kerala's progress. Thank you. I'd like to request the Honorable Finance Minister do the cover page launch. Deepu sir, I request you to be present here. നമ്മുടെ കേരള കൗമുദിയുടെ ഒരു ആനുവൽ എഡിഷൻ, സ്പെഷ്യൽ എഡിഷൻ്റെ കവർ പേജിൻ്റെ പ്രകാശനമാണ് ഇനി വേദിയിൽ നടക്കാൻ പോകുന്നത്. നമ്മുടെ ബഹുമാനിയായ ധനകാര്യ വകുപ്പ് മന്ത്രി ശ്രീമതി നിർമ്മല സീതാരാമൻ നമ്മുടെ കേരള കൗമുദിയുടെ ചീഫ് എഡിറ്ററിൻ്റെയും മറ്റ് വേദിയിലെ വിശിഷ്ട വ്യക്തിത്വങ്ങളുടെയും സാന്നിധ്യത്തിൽ അത് നിർവഹിക്കുകയാണ്. ഒരുപാട് പ്രസിദ്ധീകരണങ്ങൾ വന്നിട്ടുള്ള കേരള കൗമുദി കുടുംബത്തിൽ നിന്നും ദി ലേറ്റസ്റ്റ്. And it's time for that moment that you've been waiting for. It is the inaugural address by Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman now.
Good evening to all the invited guests marking this 113th anniversary of Kerala Kaumudi, dignitaries on the dais, the eminent citizens of Thiruvananthapuram. It gives me certainly a lot of pleasure to be here. It's not very often you come across media houses which are over 100 years old and which keep their position intact as one of those who do a fair job of the idea of reporting on news, writing on them, researching on them, and keeping the public informed. So in that regard, I think Kerala Kaumudi is definitely one of those very few organizations which has stood the test of time and has retained its audience and their goodwill. So I take this opportunity to appreciate the service that Kerala Kaumudi is doing in an India which is certainly emerging. You've chosen in your first edition of such a gathering, Business Conclave, which you in your 113 years have chosen to do it for the first time now. I think at the right time you picked up a topic like this, Emerging Bharat and Growing Kerala. And I was certainly going to say as a part of my observation about what exactly is Emerging Bharat requiring to be where it has to be. So I'm not looking at this topic as purely the economic performance. For a society to emerge, there are several value indicators which I would look at, not just growth, not just your currency exchange rate, not just the foreign exchange reserve that you have. Those are important, certainly important. But what I think is in this 21st century, wherein we have seen the pangs of a growing out of colonial rule economy, not just India, there are several countries which came out around the same period from its colonial history, and they've all set for themselves their own path to lead their country forward. All of us equally have faced immense challenges, and in that India has seen models of growth which probably was right at that point in time when people chose to take that route, But today we also see the need and also have the courage of conviction to change from it. And when you do so, certainly there are going to be frictions, there are going to be conversations which are going to be up and down, there are going to be conversations which can get vitiated. So this is going to be the process of transformation. Not just transforming into a 21st century, which is so rich with its technology and also the way in which people have adapted to it. Because I would certainly look at the figures and say, if globally there is about 60-62% technology adaptation readiness, India's technology adaptation readiness is 80 and above. So that itself tells you it is not the perception which is seen about India outside, which is playing out in India. The perception you get outside, partly probably right, is because India still got miles to go before your population is going to be covered with basic amenities, literacy levels, and so on. And therefore, they think adaptation of technology is going to be only influenced by those factors. But when technology itself adapts to deal with people in their mother tongue, in simple language, and make it user-friendly by a kind of a driven system of you lead the technology in the instrument that you hold, the adaptation level gets going forward without even waiting for people to be all 100% literate and then teach them. In the process, they also see the value of literacy. So, using technology the way it should be for the sake of the common people and scaling it up so that everybody gets access to it has actually been a game changer for India. Game changer definitely, which has brought in inclusion, which has given access to credit, which has actually given access to many other, like during the COVID vaccination time. You knew the hospital where you had to go, you knew the vaccine you had to take, you also knew the vaccine which naturally for the second dose had to be the same as earlier one, although there were conversations about you could mix and match. But that person didn't have to worry about it all. It was fed into his phone and he knew when he had to go where and so on. So technology for us has been an immense game changer and in a way that which decades of intention, irrespective of the parties, decades of intention couldn't succeed, technology has helped us to succeed. So recognizing that, we have a role to see how emerging India has to benefit from this technology and the readiness to adapt this technology, equally making sure that this technology also is going to give us the advantage in terms of identifying where our opportunities lie. I heard MOS Muralidharan talk about how skilling and grade upskilling and so on will help Kerala. But I would start with, yes, it will help India, but more particularly, I think it will help Kerala because you've repeatedly kept yourself abreast of what happens in technology, in skilling, although you had to go elsewhere to show your talents and utilize them, less within Kerala and more outside of it. So, it is important therefore to continue that tradition of being inclined to have a knowledge base which actually helps Kerala in every field, whether it is medical today or where nurses, I heard the requirement of set up a nursing college here. Today, the point is technology is into every walk of our life. And therefore, the opportunities which I think Kerala can carve out for itself is very important. I'm only going to flag a few which I think are opportunities waiting for Kerala to tap. all of which I'm sure you are fairly familiar with, you are aware of, but I still will put it before you. And it is here that I would think, irrespective of the government, irrespective of center-state relations, it is just waiting to be tapped. And nothing can hold a state back, especially a state like Kerala, from wanting to do it wrong or right, and keep moving forward. I would think you will still achieve a whole lot of success. Now, this knowledge base that you have has not happened simply. It has happened because look at the reality. I'm sure the state governments, whichever party they've been in power, will certainly take credit for it, and I have nothing against that. Kerala has one of the highest college densities in India relative to its population size. 50 per lakh eligible population, 50 colleges for every lakh population is what you have. And Kerala is the third highest in India as per All India Survey on Higher Education. 50 colleges for 1 lakh people, enviable number. Now, therefore, Kerala can take advantage of the inherent latent capability of its people, and it can become a hub to grow its services potential. Why should I shift away from primary, from secondary, manufacturing to services? Today, emerging Bharat, the contribution of services sector to our GDP is over 60% and is growing. Agriculture is still within that range of 9-10% if you're lucky with the monsoon, lucky with whole other things. Manufacturing has not crossed 12. We'd like to have it reach 20 or even more. But services is moving and moving fast, as much in speed as technology itself. And in that, I'll go further to tell you all that Kerala has biggest advantage in EduTech. So I would want to play that point for growing Kerala as one of those very strong, if anything, foothold, which will take you higher. So in a world which is witnessing the Industrial Revolution 4.0, you're talking of Web3, you're talking of AI, you're talking of big data and its analytics. You will be the world leader because you already have a natural advantage and inclination in this area. And that does not require huge campuses. Every campus that exists today can house an AI research center. As you know, in this budget, I have announced 3 centers of excellence for AI. And I wouldn't put it past Kerala to get one of them. The center-state relationship does not hinge on keeping AI in a place which doesn't have the potential. None of what has happened, and I will say for whatever it is worth, irrespective of the kind of criticism I have to face for it, none of what has happened between 2014 and today has gone on the basis of my favorite place, my town, please get that or get this, when it doesn't have the capability. And if it does have the capability, it goes there. AI, if Kerala requires, I think will be one of those fantastic centers because you have the soft power, you have the manpower which can service it and grow and benefit from. Other favorable conditions for this knowledge society and also that which is driven by technology is the fact that you have space and space-related institutions in and around Thiruvananthapuram. A little fishing hamlet of Tumba 60 years ago, and since Sashi Tharoor is sitting next to me, I may as well say during the Congress Party's rule, had set up the space program there, and subsequently so many different other institutions came around it. We are actually close to the date. 21st November 1963 is when Tumba started its activities. So you have, and incidentally this morning, you had that Rohini series 2-stage launch also happening. I understand the minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh and Muralidharan were together during this launch. So one after the other, post 2014, one other thing which happened was to open up the space sector for private sector. That has actually brought in a lot of small private players into the space sector. They are building satellites which can be launched, which are small enough to meet the requirement of many other countries which want to do different things about satellites now. Even within India, for the low orbit satellite, the telecom industry is very keen to have it, so that you don't need to set up pillars and connect them with optical fibers. Directly from the space, communication can happen, telecommunication connection can be built. So you have immense potential for that also, given that the ecosystem has these many institutions here. Space startups. I know the Kerala state government has a startup promotion, KSUM, I think it's called. I don't know if you pronounce the acronym. Yes. So the startup mission, I would have thought it's KUSUM, and I would have thought, where is KUSUM? Because KUSUM is a program of renewable energy by Government of India, but it is KSUM, so the startup mission. I understand there are 190 of them only in the space sector. 190 Indian space startups. And in just 3 years, this sector, since after the opening up of the sector, private investments, we're talking about FDIs, otherwise we won't be able to fund our growth and so on. Just take this one example. 190 Indian space startups, 3 years only after we opened up the policy. Today, private investment is jumping up by about 75% between 2021 and 2022. 75% increase in the investment which has come from private investors. So I've told you about the number of space-related organizations. Similarly, globally, there are global capacity centers which are being set up, which is the newest, labor-intensive, but yet servicing the entire world. I'm still on the Knowledge Society, Kerala. 1,500 of them are in India. And they are specializing in different domains, and all of them require absolutely world-class staff who are trained to run this program. And they don't need, and again, in 2023, Deloitte did a study on this. And they said, India is the most preferred, and I'm quoting their words, most preferred location for shared global services, which are global capability centers. India is the preferred destination. It's not as if the 1,500 have come and that's the end of the story. More are coming in. Cities in Kerala, and this is my strong view on this, cities in Kerala could be the hubs for opening up of GCC. I have myself had people come, met with me to say we want to establish GCC, where else, with their respective specialization. Not all of them have the same thing happening. They've chosen different parts of the country, and states are vying with each other to say, look, you can do on defense production if you want to be here, we give you this. Or automobile components, it may not be micro to that level, but broadly, areas of related domain specialism can all come under one GCC. So I strongly believe, because you can provide high value services, Kerala should aim at getting many of these global capacity or capacity centers. That's a growing area. Next 5-6 years, they will peak up. But before that, if you're able to capture many of them here, you can have some of the tier 2 cities hosting some of the global capacity centers. It was mentioned by Muralidharanji that Digital Science Park has been opened here by Prime Minister Modi, April 2023. The Kerala Startup Mission, again, I'm only highlighting that which is your strength. I'm sure you know it already. 4,000 registered tech startups, 63 incubators, 10 lakh square feet of incubation space. This is what is Kerala Startup Mission. And this has met many of its originally set up goals. But today what you need is to expand on it and not leave the original statement of intent where it is. It has to be pepped up. It has to be seizing off all those developments which are happening everywhere. So it is just a strong message that Kerala Startup Mission can actually do a lot more, even as it's doing very well. I refer to the EdTech area. That's another one of the areas in which Kerala has already got a signature of its own. India is the second largest market for e-learning after the US, with a market size of $6 billion. And it is expected to grow within 2 years. We are in 2023. By 2025, we expect that to grow to $10 billion. In the last 3 to 6 years, in fact, last 3 years, 6 edtech startups in India have become unicorns. So you can see the potential with which edtechs are growing. Now, I'm sure this is a news which you know already. In September 2023, a Kerala-based educational technology startup called Interwell was selected for Finland's Talent Boost project. Interwell from Kerala goes to Finland to help in their Talent Boost project. You get the intensity of this thought. Kerala from India sends a team of fellows to that country, Finland, to boost their talent. So what can be a greater recognition for Kerala in terms of, I'm not seeking validation because it's going outside, but the fact is countries which we think are developed, and that's why I've kept on saying emerging Bharat does not just have to be in terms of, is your GDP big enough? Is your per capita big enough? Is your this big enough? They are important. But look in the meanwhile, what are you achieving? So I would like Kerala to recognize, I don't know, I'm tempted to use a metaphor, but I'm most often pilloried after that saying, "Ho, finance minister." But I will nevertheless say, it's like Hanuman. You have the skill, the power, the strength, the dedication, the wanting to do things, the drive in you. But somewhere, somebody has to tell you, you are Hanuman, get going. And I wish if that little service can be done by me, I'll be happy to do it. You are really full of strength. You can do it. This startup is based out of Arikode. Am I right? Is there a place? Arikode? In Malappuram district. It caters to more than 25,000 students across 30 countries already. Okay, so on EdTech, you have 200 EdTech startups. You already have the ground for it. Keep moving on it. Now, I move on to the other potential for the growing Kerala bit. Ports and shipping. Amazing potential. you are currently with one major port and 17 non-major ports. I'll highlight how Virinjam port is actually the right thing happening to Kerala, irrespective of who's building it. It might be my friend. And I'm sure the people who like to punch at me will go on saying, oh, you're dealing everything for him, you're giving everything for him. But Kerala gave him Virinjam. And I'm still saying only Kerala gave him. And I'm still saying only Kerala gave him, and he's doing the job, and no government in Kerala, thank goodness, no government in Kerala thought, drive the fellow out. I am not bothered whether it is that fellow or this fellow. Kerala needs to do this for country's sake and for your sake. Virinjam, I'll tell you what it's going to do. And that's why I'm saying, good for Kerala. Virinjam is the best thing happening in terms of major port. Look, at the moment, nearly 75% of India's transshipment cargo is being handled by ports outside of India. And this ultra-large container vessel capacity is also something which is not available in this part of the world, although something is getting built in somewhere in Orissa. So if this port gets, which is a natural port, if it gets completed, it's located just 10 nautical miles away from the huge highway. 8, is it? Okay. I stand corrected. 8 nautical miles away from that huge international corridor in the high sea, which is taking all these fantastic large transshipment vessels. Imagine what it can do to Kerala's growing economy. You're just going to be the leaders in finding transportation moving from west to east, east to west, and today east, when I say east, Southeast Asia, and also India inclusive, the emerging markets in this part of the world are going to be dealing with over 50% of global trade. You're going to be, now it's somewhere in the range of 40. But the rate at which things are moving from these emerging markets, it's about 50%, and that will pass through Virinjam. Amazing, I would think, Kerala, you're sitting on gold. This is going to help you in growing, and no ideology, no growth model, no nothing is going to stop this from happening. You may have any number of punches on somebody or some state, but you'll lap this up. I can see that you're already lapping it up. You didn't have the honest strength to say, no, no, we don't want this person doing it. We'll get somebody else. You couldn't. And it is doing good to you. I'm not defending any one particular person or particular industry. Good for Kerala. And MOS Muralidharan nicely said, for all that I said in the morning, I've been titled as somebody who hates Kerala. Media wants eyeballs. Media wants to have people read the headlines. If only that media is honest. And that's one of the requirements I would think for emerging Bharat. Robust media. Media which does its homework. Do your little bit of, I serve some cause and therefore I can twist and turn. Do it. Nobody's going to be offended. But mislead doesn't help. Because sooner you'll be disproved yourself. But of course, many of us in the media don't want to admit that we've been exposed. India can't afford to have a media which is going to be so selective. Be ruthless about everybody, but about everybody. Emerging India needs that. So, the job that the ports of Colombo, Singapore, Malaysia are handling can be with great advantage handled by Virinjam. That's the potential of Virinjam, and we be conscious of it, and I'm sure the administration in Kerala will quickly ramp up its policies to make sure the advantage for the hinterland of that activity which is happening in the port will truly benefit Kerala and truly benefit rest of the country. The other which I want to highlight is the capacity and the capability of Kochi shipyard has already been established by the fact that it built the indigenous aircraft carrier Vikrant, INS Vikrant. It's already established. We need, and I'm sure the policy of the Ministry of Shipping is now favoring policies in such a way that such establishment which are both in the east and the west coast will utilize these capacities and not just restrict themselves to government-given project, but also be ready to do many of the private demands for building vessels. That itself will give great advantage for the Kochi seaport, shipyard. The other which I would like to highlight is a potential is global naval vessel MRO industry. Maintenance and repair and overhaul. This is expected to be $60 billion market. On the lower side, if it can be only more than 60 billion. And this, I'm not talking about 2050, 2060, by 2028, an international ship repair facility worth 970 crores of rupees is being built in the Kochi shipyard, and it's a big welcome move. You should capitalize on it, and make sure the ecosystem in and around that shipyard is built with capable individuals who can benefit from this kind of a major MRO facility that exists. I'll quickly move on to fisheries. You might think, we know it all, but there are aspects which I want to highlight. The Blue Revolution, and I'm certainly going to say what happened after 2014. In 63 years before 2014, our fish production level was 59 lakh tons. I've said this in Parliament also. In 63 years, we reached the level of 59 lakh tons. In just 9 years, that is, after 2014, we've added another 59 lakh tons to the fish production. It was 59 in 63 years. In 9 years, we add another 53 lakh tons. So the potential is just waiting there for us to exploit. I'm sure Kerala can look at it because you have 590 kilometers of coastline. 10% of India's coastline is with you. 2.18 square kilometers is the exclusive economic zone. High value exports are something which can be aimed. You can market it, you can plan for it. And I also think you have traditionally exploited that chakara, is it? The muddy banks which can give you such good quality fish, which is chagara. Chagara, oh, chagara. The spellings are, when written in English, chagara. So that, if you're able to brand it as a unique product of Kerala, fish coming from there will obtain such price that it is not comparable with what you otherwise would get in the domestic market. So it is the secret sauce there is to have the right kind of branding for that product, because you would hear in some of the top-notch restaurant that if beef is served, Kobe Japanese beef. Am I right? Wagyu. So it is in that region of Kobe. It has 10 times more the price of any sundry meat, any sundry beef. There's nothing much more than specifying the favorable conditions in which this is grown. Your Chagara should have a branding of its own. You'll hit the global markets. Similarly, the domestic market is not adequately being serviced by Kerala. I know inland fish from Andhra Pradesh go to Jharkhand, go to Chhattisgarh, go to Assam, go to Bengal, and the demand there is so much that even they are not able to fill it up. I'm not sure if Kerala is utilizing its fullest strength on this. Marine fish production from around 13% currently to 20 to 25% in the coming years is what being speculated, but purely Kerala can achieve it on its own. The Matsya Sampada Yojana, which was launched in 2022, gives a lot of money and assistance for modernizing and upgrading of Kochi fishing harbor, and it will benefit 700 fishing boats, and it will provide direct and indirect livelihoods. The central government is doing it. More will be done if it's possible. So aviation is the last I think I would highlight on, last two. MRO for aviation. I was reading somewhere that Air India, Indigo, and one more airlines company have placed orders for new aircrafts, and somebody in passing mentioned to me that one new aircraft every week is going to come into this country because of the orders placed by these people and the growth in airlines, passenger traffic is unbelievable. Globally, if it is growing somewhere in the rate of 12 to 14%, India is growing near 20. So there is going to be more new aircrafts, and the old ones are going to have a lot of maintenance and repair. So I would think MRO for airlines is something which Kerala can benefit from, particularly for the Middle East carriers. Yes, exact number that I have, 850 aircrafts are operating in India at the moment. 1,200 more are expected to join the fleet in the next 5 years. So imagine the growth. If for at least those which are coming from the Middle East, an MRO center placed in Kerala can immediately mean jobs, immediately give assurance to many of these international operators that you have a fantastic center here which can, in cost-effective ways, do the servicing. Normally there's a complaint when finance minister talks, all this is all right, but you're not doing anything about the cutting of interest, tax on these sectors. I'd like to say the MRO services tax was cut from 18% to 5% in March 2022. We've already done it. Take the benefit out of it. I understand the Kochi International Aviation Services Limited, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Kochi International Airport, is taking steps to provide MRO, which is very good, appreciable. I welcome it. Quickly on the MICE, meetings, incentives, conferences, exhibition. Tourism today is not just by families which come to see Kochi, backwaters, the boat race, not just that. Businesses want to move from one location to another to hold their board meetings and have their conferences. You should, Kerala, expect to have, like Indonesia was taken up, Bali was being referred to. They have capitalized on the natural beauty that they have without upsetting it, providing MICE centers, the meetings, incentives, conferences, exhibition centers for top-notch businesses to hold their meeting. And even today, I can see many of the big companies like Boeing, FedEx and others who say, we are coming with our entire board to India next winter. And would they choose Kerala? Yes, they may, if you provide these conference facilities. Ministry of Tourism in 2021 highlighted 6 cities, including Thiruvananthapuram, for this MICE development focal points. Both center and state will have to work together. Ministry of Tourism has already highlighted. Shashi Tharoor will be extremely happy. It is his constituency. We should build on it. The last 2 points, health and medical tourism. Approximately 20 lakh patients visit India every year from 78 countries for medical, wellness and IVF treatments, and they generate $6 billion for the Indian healthcare industry. Now it is expected to reach $13 billion, literally doubling, and by when? Not again 2050. By 2026, 2 years only. If all of us are on our toes, you will have majority of them come to Kerala. You already have the facility of people coming for Ayurvedic treatments. If you're able to extend that for other treatments as well. Now again on this, all right, the government has said this, but have you all done your bit? Yes, the Home Ministry has done its bit. Medical visa is being given on the ask. You need medical visa, you get it, no questions asked. So it is just for us to quickly capitalize on it. And the last thing about which global merchandise historically grew is again back on that point for Kerala. High value agricultural products is a great attraction even today. Whether it's your coconut, whether it's pepper, cashew, rubber, coffee, tea, cardamom, you have it all. Entrepreneurs from Kerala can make optimum utilization of e-commerce platforms. Sell, you reach the whole world. The government has put its money and created ONDC, Open Network for Development in E-commerce. You should just register yourselves on it. The globe is watching you. You're able to sell better, get a better price. And again, no harm in approaching Amazon or Flipkart or anything. Government's own GEM portal is there for us. If government procurements happen, and if they happen through the GEM portal, in that MSMEs have a carve-out for themselves, your products are preferred, so small such agricultural products which are being value added by people who are in the MSME sectors can benefit in this regard. So Ayurveda is of course a global fad now. It's good fad, it's a good fad and I appreciate it. You have the mastery on it, you should capitalize on it, I would think. So for an emerging India, and I would say this for each of the states where I would get an opportunity to talk, each state can contribute and growing India is possible only when all states can grow. Prime Minister Modi, irrespective of whoever might say whatever they want about center-state relation under Prime Minister Modi, I will say this repeatedly. No other ministry other than finance will have this periodic punching at us saying you're not doing enough for this state or that state. Say whatever. I'm here to hear it. But let's also be informed that the proportion of the tax devolved to a state, grant given to a state from the center, are all determined by the Finance Commission. I can't do 1 paisa more or 1 paisa less. And who decides the terms for Finance Commission? Irrespective of what is said in the Constitution, that's all that the Finance Commissions do. Even if I want to say, hey, do something less for Kerala, they can't. So you don't trust me, trust the Finance Commission. And once the Finance Commission gives its report, I have to follow it to the last T. And the Finance Commission doesn't sit in Delhi to decide how much should be given to some state or the other. They go around meeting the state governments, take their inputs, and only then on the basis of a formula tell you tell the central government how much has got to be given to who, whatever. And I can appreciate one particular point on which governments in the southern states speak, saying for having been efficient in population management, we are getting far lesser than what a very populous state, be it Uttar Pradesh or be it Bihar, get. Yes, that's a reality, that's a fact. I'm not justifying it, but that's what has been given to me. I have to follow it. It might be worth a while for the next Finance Commission, when they go around, to highlight this point and see how you or any other state is not punished for efficiency, but if there is a way to incentivize, the Finance Commission should say it. And therefore, I would invite for the next Finance Commission, whose work will start from 24, to get the report, and after that they'll take 1.5 or 2 years to submit it. Every state should put facts before the Finance Commission and get their concerns to be taken cognizance of by the Finance Commission. Till then, punching Prime Minister Modi or the current government will only expose our ignorance about how these things work. There is just no point in trying to score a political mileage by saying Modi is not giving money to Kerala. I'm sorry, this morning I stood up and invited the media to say, please switch on your mics, don't close. I'm going to have to answer the allegations which are being put before me. And specifically took nearly 6 items on which we are periodically told, oh, you've not given money on this. No, this money has not come. Only something has been given here. Point on point, I'll tell you, not 1 rupee is held back by the central government for money which has to go to the state government, provided, of course, you get your AG certificate to me in time. If your AG is delaying it, it's not me, it's you and your AG. Get your certificates through, you get your compensation. You get other things also done by tapping sooner rather than later. I can't use your money for anybody else, so I can't eat it. Let that be clear for Kerala. And you can challenge me in any court, even if that's the desire. I wouldn't mind, please go ahead. It gives me one more opportunity to put the facts before the court to say, this is what the story is really. And people who think they can mislead the public by saying, oh no, center is not giving money, Modi is not giving money, even if they desire going to the court, welcome. I'll certainly present the facts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing that grand vision for Kerala that our state can definitely tap into. I've been told that she's already running late for a flight, so without any further ado, I'd like to bring on stage our chief editor to present a memento, to present a token of our appreciation to our Honorable Finance Minister for finding the time and coming here and talking to us and sharing her important and urgent perspectives. Shri Deepu Ravi, the Chief Editor of the Kerala Kaumudi Group, is presenting a token of our appreciation on behalf of Kerala Kaumudi Daily and Kaumudi Television. He is also presenting a token of our appreciation to the Honorable Minister of State, Shri V. Muralidharan. And Shri P. Santosh Kumar, all the 3 speakers who graced us with their presence in this inaugural session of the Emerging Bharat Growing Kerala Business Conclave. And as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Shashi Tharoor will be here with us for the next session. And on that note, I'd like to invite Shri V.S. Rajesh, Chief News Editor of Kerala Kaumudi, for his vote of thanks. Yes. And let's take a moment for the Honorable Finance Minister to leave this stage as she has a flight to catch.
Honorable Minister for Finance, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji, other respected dignitaries on of the dais and dear friends. It is a great privilege for me to speak a few words in the form of vote of thanks in this auspicious function. The Kerala Kaumudi family, headed by our Chief Editor Sri Deepu Ravi, owe a deep debt of gratitude to all those who have participated in this conclave, thereby making it a grand success. First of all, I would like to express our sincere thanks and gratitude to Sri Nirmala Sitharaman ji, who has taken the pain to travel all the way from Delhi to grace this function. Let me add a few more words without taking much time. പക്ഷേ ഈ അവസരത്തിൽ നിർമ്മലാ സീതാരാമൻജി വേദി വിട്ട സാഹചര്യത്തിൽ അതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് കൂടുതൽ പറഞ്ഞ് ഞാൻ സമയം കളയുന്നില്ല. എങ്കിലും കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ വികസനത്തിന് എന്തൊക്കെ സാധ്യതകളാണ് ഉണ്ടെന്ന് വളരെ വ്യക്തമായി നിർമ്മലാ സീതാരാമൻജി അവരുടെ ഉദ്ഘാടന പ്രസംഗത്തിൽ വ്യക്തമാക്കി കഴിഞ്ഞു. കേരളം ഒരു സ്വർണ്ണക്കനിയുടെ പുറത്താണ് ഇരിക്കുന്നതെന്നും ഈ വേളയിൽ നിർമ്മലാ സീതാരാമൻജി പറഞ്ഞു. ഞാൻ അവർക്ക് തമിഴ്നാട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് വന്ന ആളായതുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു തമിഴ് വാക്കും ഞാൻ തയ്യാറാക്കിക്കൊണ്ട് വന്നിരുന്നു. അൻപുടയ നിർമ്മലാജി ഉങ്കടയായ ഉജ്ജ്വലമായ സ്വற்பൊഴിവുക്ക് മനമാർന്ന നന്ദി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഉജ്ജ്വലമായ പ്രസംഗത്തിന് മനം നിറഞ്ഞ ഹൃദയം നിറഞ്ഞ ഞങ്ങളുടെ നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ഇവിടെ we are deeply thankful to Sri V. Muralidharan ji, the Honorable Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, who has always been a friend and well-wisher of Keralakaumudi. ഞങ്ങളുടെ ആത്മമിത്രം കൂടിയായ ശ്രീ വി മുരളീധരൻ ജിയെയും ഔപചാരികതയുടെ പേരിൽ നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുന്നു. അതോടൊപ്പം രാജ്യസഭയിൽ CPIയുടെ അല്ലെ കമ്മ്യൂണിസ്റ്റ് പ്രസ്ഥാനത്തിൻ്റെ ഉജ്ജ്വല ശബ്ദമായ സന്തോഷ് കുമാർ ജി, രാജ്യസഭാംഗം, അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു ലെഫ്റ്റ് വ്യൂ ഇവിടെ വളരെ മികച്ച രീതിയിൽ പ്രസന്റ് ചെയ്തു. അദ്ദേഹത്തിനും കേരള കൗമുദിയുടെ നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുന്നു. ഇപ്പോൾ ഇനി അടുത്ത സെഷൻ ആരംഭിക്കാൻ പോവുകയാണ്. ഈ വേദിയിൽ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ പ്രിയങ്കരനായ MP, നമ്മുടെ വിശ്വപൗരൻ, കേരള കൗമുദിയുടെ ആത്മമിത്രമായ ശ്രീ ശശി തരൂർ വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. അദ്ദേഹമാണ് അടുത്ത സെഷൻ ഉദ്ഘാടനം ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അടുത്ത സെഷനിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കാനായി മുൻ പ്രധാനമന്ത്രി ശ്രീ മൻമോഹൻ സിംഗിന്റെ പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ സെക്രട്ടറി ആയിരുന്ന ശ്രീ TK നായർ സാർ, ടെക്നോ പാർക്കിന്റെ സ്ഥാപകനായ മുൻ ആസൂത്രണ ബോർഡ് അംഗം കൂടിയായ വിജയരാഘവൻ സാർ, നിലവിൽ ആസൂത്രണ ബോർഡ് അംഗവും സാമ്പത്തിക വിദഗ്ധനുമായ ഡോക്ടർ രവിരാമൻ തുടങ്ങിയവർ ഇവിടെ എത്തിച്ചേർന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. അവരെയൊക്കെ ഇതിലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. അതോടൊപ്പം ഈ ചടങ്ങിൽ പങ്കെടുക്കാൻ എത്തിയവർ ഓരോരുത്തരെയും കേരള കൗമുദിക്ക് വേണ്ടി നന്ദി അറിയിക്കുന്നു. ഇവിടെ ധനകാര്യമന്ത്രിയിൽ നിന്ന് ആദരവ് ഏറ്റുവാങ്ങിയ എല്ലാ വ്യവസായ പ്രമുഖരെയും എല്ലാ സുഹൃത്തുക്കൾക്കും ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി നന്ദി പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് അടുത്ത സെഷനിലേക്ക് നിങ്ങളെ എല്ലാവരെയും ഞാൻ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു.
Thank you, Sri Rajesh, and thank you, Sri Santosh Kumar, for joining us on this stage for the inaugural session. I request all the participants to stay put in your seats because, as mentioned here, we are diving into our second session right away, and the keynote speaker for this next session, which is on infrastructure development and growth potential of the state of Kerala, he was gracious enough to join us in the first session itself and is already seated here. So to join Dr. Shashi Tharoor, MP, on this stage for the second session at Emerging Bharat, Growing Kerala Business Conclave by Kerala Kaumudi, I'd like to invite on stage Dr. TK Nair, who was the Principal Secretary and Advisor to Dr. Manmohan Singh. He was also the Chairman of Public Enterprises Selection Board, which selected the CEOs of India's public sector giants. Pleasure to bring on stage Dr. TK Nair. Shri TK Nair, hearty welcome on stage, sir. Also my privilege to bring on stage Dr. Ravi Raman. He is the former visiting fellow of Universities of Cambridge, Oxford and Manchester, and was also a member of the planning board, state planning board. Dr. Ravi Raman, welcome, sir. And finally, a close friend of the Kerala Kaumudi family, Dr. G. Vijayaraghavan. എല്ലാവരുടെയും പേരിന് മുൻപിൽ ഒരു ഡോക്ടർ ഫിറ്റ് ചെയ്താണ് എൻ്റെ തന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോളജീസ് ഫോർ ദാറ്റ്. തീർച്ചയായും ശ്രീ G. Vijayaraghavan. He was the Chief Executive Officer of India's first Technopark and, of course, twice the member of State Planning Board. We have an August panel on stage for the second session. And our keynote speaker, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, will be addressing us first, followed by all the other three speakers, followed by a panel discussion, which means the floor will be open for you to ask questions as well. But first, into their addresses, keynote address by Dr. Shashi Tharoor MP.
I remember in my debating days at St. Stephen's, we had a convention that we had to begin by saying, Mr. Chairman and members of the House. But here it looks like we have Mr. Chairman and embers of the House. Only a few people are left. But very good to see those of you who are here. I told Nirmala Sitharaman that she had delivered 60% of my speech already. But I'll try and cover some of her ground very briefly and then add a few thoughts to it. Emerging Bharat, growing Kerala. Not much to say about Emerging Bharat. I think the government people have already done that. Growing Kerala is, of course, a major responsibility. And it's very interesting that our annual per capita income in Kerala almost tripled in constant prices between 2004 and 2021. We went from 58,000 rupees per capita income to 1,44,000 just 2 years ago, and it's probably 1,50,000 by now. Now, what does that mean? Ultimately, not that much, because there's a great limitation in per capita income. It captures the macro picture, but not the individual Malayali's experience. I am fond of joking once in a while that when you calculate per capita income, you take all our incomes and you divide it by the number of people in the room, which means if Mr. Adani or Mr. Ambani walk in right now, all our per capita income will immediately go up. But the moment they leave the room, our per capita income will go back to exactly where it was, and it essentially means nothing in terms of our own individual life experiences. So we have to look at the experience of real Malayalis, and there the problem is our urban and rural employment rates are actually worse than they've ever been. Every year, our unemployment rates are growing. We have amongst the highest unemployment in the country, the highest urban unemployment of all Indian states. Even ahead of J&K is in Kerala. The highest female unemployment is quite shocking because we have a situation where with the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, Manrega, we actually have 90.3% of the state's Manrega beneficiaries are women. So women are willing to work, they want employment, but we have an extremely high level of female unemployment in Kerala. And the result at the moment is that we are a state that is sinking in unemployment, and our only answer is to export our unemployed to other states and other countries. And this is truly worrying. As it is, our youth population is much lower than the rest of India. You know that in India, people under 25 are 50.1% of the population. In Kerala, they're only 23% of the population. So it's a very small youth cohort that we have, and even then we have a 40% unemployment rate amongst this rather modest number of youth. And that is the second worst in the country, this time after J&K, because J&K has an ongoing militancy. Now, what is terribly sad about Kerala's unemployment is that for the most part, in fact, almost everybody on the unemployment exchange registers are skilled and educated people, unlike the rest of India. Now, I won't burden you with all the other problems we have. You know, we have a ridiculously high debt ratio of about 40%. We have a record fiscal deficit. The excessive expenditure over revenue is increasing every year and is going haywire under the present government. We have very, very many serious issues with regard to our ability to borrow money. The state government, every owner, has to borrow money in order to pay the annual bonuses to their own staff. That's how badly things are. And the bottom line, in other words, is there is very little money in the state exchequer to actually fund development and growth. And this is why when we talk about growing Kerala, we have to look very seriously at a situation which unfortunately has even been recognized internationally. Fitch, the global ratings agency, has downgraded its outlook on Kerala's economy from stable to negative in October last year. So the government can continue distributing freebies and kits and going around the bus around the state, but our children and grandchildren will pay for much of the freebies that the government is distributing today. And the government's own planning board has said that they should make a priority of resource mobilization over the next 5 years. But where will we mobilize those resources from? Now, Nirmala Sitharaman talked about how in India 60% of GDP growth is coming from the services sector. You may want to know that in Kerala, 78% of our net state domestic product is contributed to by service and construction sectors. Agriculture and industry have a sadly marginal role in the state. And we need to do very much more about this. When I spoke at FICCI in Kochi a couple of weeks ago, and some of the gentlemen here were present there as well, I made a very strong point that there is no alternative for Kerala but to encourage businesses to come to our state in ways that they have been reluctant to do so far. And that would mean a dramatic transformation in our attitudes on the ease of doing business. In 2015, when Niti Aayog started ranking states in ease of doing business, Kerala came in a rather lackluster 18th rank. But in 2019, we are in the 28th rank among the 29 states of India. So we really have to do something about the way in which we welcome or fail to welcome businesses. And with all the challenges we're facing, we have the additional headache of the extraordinary amount of migration that we are reliant upon. Remittances from Malayalis abroad is what keeps our economy afloat. And we are proud of our social indicators. We have very good human development indicators, but they're only made possible because we are being kept afloat, literally, by the remittances from our expatriates. That can't last. We've already seen 1 million people come back during the COVID pandemic from the Gulf. And I'm sorry to say that if more come back, we don't have any way of absorbing them in our present economy. Now, what are we going to talk about in terms of trying to recommend growth? As I said to Nirmala ji, she has covered many points that I intended to, so I can be brief about them. Some I will add to, and some I will slightly modify. First, I do feel we need to do something dramatically about charting a viable future for our youth. And the problem here is that there are about 2 lakh professional and technical job seekers registered in our unemployment exchange. I'm looking at 2022 figures from last year. Half of them are ITI, certificate or diploma holders. Another 44,000 unemployed Malayalis are engineering graduates. In fact, I formerly headed an organization in the Congress Party called the All India Professionals Congress. And they did a survey of some 60,000 engineering graduates in Kerala, which established that 66% of those graduates are today in jobs that do not require an engineering degree. So their education was completely irrelevant to their job situation. So it's all very well for Nirmala Sitharaman to rightly remind us that we have the highest density of colleges per eligible population in our state, 50 colleges for every 1 lakh people in the college-going age. But the sad truth is, the skills they're imparting are not what the job market is looking for. That's the problem that we realize in terms of the engineering graduates I told you about, but it applies across the board. It's difficult to believe this because it's not true of any other state. But in Kerala, there are 6,000 medical graduates and doctors, both MBBS and Ayush, who are registered in our unemployment exchanges. There are also 6,000 MBA degree holders who have no jobs in Kerala and are looking for it. So the need to open our doors to business opportunities is my first recommendation for Kerala's growth. There is no question. I've said before, I'll say it again, that whereas other states have also had the experience of farmer suicides, only one state in India has witnessed investor suicides, and that is Kerala, where 3 investors have committed suicide in the last 5 years. And they've done so because after sinking their life savings into projects in our state, they encountered unreasonable obstacles, political opposition, and bureaucratic obstruction that essentially meant their entire life savings were lost, and they felt they had no option but to take their lives. We have too many regulations in our state. I have been waiting 2 years for permission to build on a plot of land I purchased in this city. 2 years. And if that's the situation for me, I imagine many ordinary people are suffering much more. We are looking at a situation where we have too many regulations, too many processes. Every file requires too many signatures. One person goes on leave, you lose another week or another month. Somebody else, when that person comes back, somebody else is no longer there. Somebody has been assigned to some other duty. And a file that essentially can be disposed of in 2 hours can go on keeping you tied up for 8 to 9 months. That kind of nonsense is not going to welcome investment into our state. We will have to dramatically take an axe to our practices of regulation, to our bureaucratic levels required for every simple thing in our state. We are over-regulated and under-governed. We need to fix that and reverse it. Part of that has got to be to do something which has not always been popular with our political parties, but now needs to be an imperative. We need to ban hartals in this state. We are the only state with frequent hartals. I know they've gone down in recent years because the principal perpetrators are now in government. But I think before the situation changes, we need to have a consensual decision made to ensure that you do not coerce. Every political party should have the democratic right to protest, but they should not have the right to coerce other people. There are too many horror stories of people prevented from going to hospital during hartals, of shopkeepers being forced to keep shops shut when they need to keep it open, but their goods will perish, where students have been unable to reach universities to take examinations, where commuters have found the air forcibly let out of their tires. This is anti-democratic. It has to stop. It has to be banned. That's the first sort of broad set of recommendations. Create a culture in which investors will be attracted to our state. And one of my recommendations, though I admit it doesn't exist anywhere in India, we can be the first. We need to pass an Investor Protection Act that will ensure that investors have the assurance that the money they bring to the state, once they sink it here, will not be lost, except, of course, for the vagaries of business. It will not be lost because of government action or inaction. Second big area is one of education. When I was entrusted by the UDF with the preparation of the election manifesto for our elections in 2021, one of the things I proposed was the creation of a higher education reforms commission. And I wanted it to be composed of experts, not just in education, but also students, faculty, administrators, and employers who could tell us what they wanted out of our universities. The LDF government, which did not propose it in their manifesto, seems to have seen some merit in the idea because they created such a commission. That commission has submitted its report. It only consisted of educationists, so it didn't go as far as I would have liked. The government has not yet announced to the nation what action it is taking on the recommendations of that commission. It's absolutely essential that we try and improve the opportunities that education gives to our young people to work in the real world. Again, the finance minister spoke about the space sector. I applaud that. But there is immense scope for education to be improved in other areas of technology of the 21st century, not just space, but also robotics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, she mentioned that one too, blockchain, electric mobility, renewable energy technology. And these are areas where Kerala doesn't offer enough, and there's no reason why we shouldn't. I say this is vital because there's a famous study that was published by the Oxford Martin School a few years ago called The Future of Skills, Employment in 2030. And what they said was that 30% of the jobs in the world, in the whole world in 2030, will be jobs that do not exist today. So we cannot constantly prepare our children to perform the jobs of yesterday. We need to familiarize them with the technologies of today and tomorrow, and for that, these are the courses we need to move into. I think there is no doubt in my mind that the first mover advantage we once had but have largely lost in the field of ICT absolutely must be changed. And I welcome her suggestion that we can be a state that can market ourselves for hosting global capability centers which require tech expertise. The Technopark that my friend Vijay Raghavan set up back in '91 is a shining example of an extremely pleasant place to work. You've got a good environment, you've got good infrastructure, you've got good traffic conditions, the bypass is going right in front of it, 4 lanes in either direction, and you've got a situation where connectivity does work, the airport is not too far. Why can't we market the Technopark better? And I certainly hope that we can. I've done my own part as much as I can, and I don't want to boast about the companies I was able to attract to our Technopark, starting off with keeping Ernst & Young at a time when they had announced their decision to leave Thiruvananthapuram. We got them to stay, and now they've expanded and they have their own building. We've got Oracle that came in here after a video conference I initiated with them in the States. We've all contributed, many of us here, to persuading Nissan to come and establish themselves, and more companies. I've been working on Tech Mahindra for some time, and the prospects are very good that they will come here as well in larger numbers than the very modest presence they have right now. So that is a very important area for employment. But for this, we need to have some serious pedagogic reform. As novel technologies emerge, even the ability of industry to predict what they will need 4 years from now has gone down, has been compromised. So one has to teach our young people how to learn. I've often told teachers, do not teach our children what to think, teach them how to think. Learning to learn is the future, because you're joining a university today and you're graduating in 4 years' time, and the jobs that exist today may not exist in 4 years. And the opportunities that will be available to you when you graduate may be different from what exists today. So learning to learn is extremely important. I've often talked about the fact that in today's world, you don't need a well-filled mind, you need a well-formed mind. And we don't do enough of that kind of instruction in our universities, in our high schools. We need to get them to think beyond textbooks, beyond curricula, into their own reading and research, and moving from textbook knowledge to a conceptual understanding and the ability to analyze unfamiliar information when it comes your way. We also need to do much more about academia-industry collaboration. We're not doing enough of that. When I was in the ministry in the center, we had Mr. Narayana Murthy offer us a report on this very subject, which I'm sorry to say was largely shelved by the new government. I think that this is something we really ought to revive. I mean, it's very common practice, for example, in the US, for a company to turn to a university and say, we've got such and such idea. Do you have graduate students who can research this? We will finance the research. If they come up with a viable model that we can manufacture and sell, you will get some royalties. And that becomes a win-win for both the university, for the students themselves who have an invaluable experience, and for the company. We don't do this in India, we should. Nirmala Sitharaman again talked about Kerala's advantage in edutech, which, as she pointed out, is going to be a $10 billion sector by 2025. I think it's extremely important that we strengthen that. I'm sorry to say, to my knowledge, at least one edutech company that had established itself in Kerala has since decided to close, but there are others rising. I know of startups. I launched one myself in the edutech sector that's doing quite well. And it was good to hear the story of Kerala's Interval company, which has gone to Finland for its Talent Boost project. There could be more like that if we have an opportunity to work in this state with the encouragement of the state government as well. Her suggestion that there are 3 centers of excellence that the government is going to support in AI in India, and Kerala should bid for one of them, is an excellent suggestion. I hope Kerala Kaumudi will highlight that and encourage the state government to make a serious bid for that. Also, in my manifesto, I talked about something which we could encourage companies to do, and that is to offer internships to students while they're still studying. I know it seems counterintuitive. Normally, you take interns during their summer breaks or after they've graduated. But in fact, it's entirely feasible in these days of working from home and online connection to offer internships for, let's say, 3 hours a day for a student after their classroom and classwork hours. They can spend 3 hours working for a company, doing specific assignments, assisting particular projects in those companies for a pittance, because since they're students, they won't expect anything like a salary. So the companies get the brains of the students for much less than market value. The students in turn gain the experience of working for a real company. And after doing that, they decide whether they find this profession interesting. They may not enjoy it. Or that they've actually got an opportunity to impress a potential employer that when they graduate, the employer can hire them. We ought to announce official encouragement for a policy like that, perhaps giving tax incentives to companies that offer such incentives and requiring universities to give some course credit, some marks, for example, for those students who do this. And this is essential for another reason. One of the shocking things about our country is that employers find most of our graduates, even in the tech field, to be unemployable when they graduate. And that's why institutions like Infosys and TCS actually have set up campuses, not just for on-the-job training, it's not that at all. They actually educate these children after graduation for 6 months, 9 months, a year, to teach them what they should have learned in college or university, but haven't learned and which they need to know to function effectively in these companies. That's what this huge Infosys campus in Mysore is all about. It's essentially an extra year of university. The TCS here is not much different. So I would say that we do need to be able to give this opportunity to young people because we don't have an apprenticeship culture in our country the way the Germans do, for example, where pretty much every student has gone through an apprenticeship and is ready for the world of work. Ours are not, and we need to be able to create this culture. I also feel we need to do a lot more to improve the standards of our universities. Generally, we used to have a much better reputation than we do now, and it's very instructive that when the Maharaja of Travancore established what is today the University of Kerala, the first potential vice-chancellor he had in mind was Albert Einstein. He actually wrote to Einstein, inviting him to be the vice-chancellor here in Thiruvananthapuram. I think he offered him a princely salary of 600 rupees a month or something, which in those days was a lot of money. And Einstein very politely declined, but that's the level of ambition that the Maharaja had, and that's the level of ambition we should be able to return to one day in Kerala, is that we want to start off pitching ourselves at the level of global excellence. We're not doing that. We're no longer even at a level of national excellence for most of our universities. And that needs to change. Political interference and administrative incompetence in the form of delayed admissions, strikes, delayed evaluations, missing campus placement opportunities, all these take away lots of good things from the academic potential that we have here in this state. And I think we can convert our brain drain into a brain gain if we do all of these basic things right. Then on the IT field, it's also true that despite Thiruvananthapuram, thanks to Vijayaraghavan's Technopark being such an early mover, and now we have the Info Park in Kochi as well, neither of our cities, or none of our cities, I would say, is in the top 10 IT hubs in India. We need to once again emerge in that area, and for this, we could very well be a thought leader and an action leader in fields like biotechnology, electric mobility, pharmaceuticals, and agro-processing. And these are all areas in which the state government can contribute tax incentives to get the private sector to move in here and do this work. I want to stress that, that the sectors which have the highest labor force absorption capability include sectors like tourism, which has also been mentioned by everybody. But we've just come out of a very bad experience in tourism because of the COVID pandemic. We can transform that and absorb more labor. But when it comes to skilled, educated, technically qualified labor, then there's a great deal that we can do in the IT sector. Let me turn briefly to agriculture, because I think it is important that when you look at the fact that the share of agriculture, livestock, forestry, and fishing in the gross value added of our country is 14.83%, but in Kerala is only 8%. That means we are way below the national standard in these areas. Now, of course, we are not anymore seriously an agricultural state because we have a lesser share of land available for agricultural purposes, but we have not been doing enough to take advantage of new advances in technology in the field of agriculture. We have an underwhelming primary agriculture sector that has put us in a very precarious position. We're not self-sufficient in food. It's going to get worse. We are importing everything we need pretty much from neighboring states. And what we've forgotten is that even the old labor-intensive agriculture is now out of fashion. The input-intensive agriculture of the Green Revolution, water, fertilizer, pesticide, even that is now getting out of fashion globally. And we have, for example, just as an example, what is called the Dutch model of agriculture. The Netherlands is a tiny country. They have roughly the same land area as the state of Kerala. And both Kerala and the Netherlands have half their land under agriculture. But the Netherlands is the world's second largest exporter of food by value. And we don't even produce enough food to feed ourselves. What are we doing wrong? What can we learn from the Dutch? It's interesting, 2021 figures. The Dutch produced 5.2 million tons of fresh vegetables. Kerala found its production going down every year, and in 2021 we only produced 3 million tons. What the Dutch do is they use technology and they do sustainability. Vertical farming in greenhouses, which use much less land area and water, and also largely avoid the need for pesticides because obviously you're going up from the ground. The technology and expertise can be honed in our own existing agricultural and technical institutes. There is more and more water scarcity everywhere in the country. Even Kerala, with its 44 rivers and innumerable lakes, are finding many of those rivers drying up in the wrong season. We should be able to do something about this. Fisheries is another area where we can move in a very positive direction. Our fish consumption is 9.12 lakh tons, but our fish production is only 6.14 lakh tons. And that means that we are actually, considering the long coastline that Nirmala Sitharaman talked about, we are actually getting fish from other states. Now that is slightly absurd. The Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute did a study saying that the demand-supply gap for fish is actually widening in Kerala. Our supplies are going down, our demand is going up. And at the same time, we have an enormous amount of potential of untapped aquatic resources in brackish water, seawater, and fresh water that can be used for inland aquaculture. We're not doing enough in terms of inland fishing. Nirmala Sitharaman pointed out to the chakara and said that could be a Kerala branding for fish, chakara fish. Again, very interesting idea. I was going to say to her that we have 46,000 hectares of backwater stretches, 5,300 hectares of freshwater ponds and lakes, 65,200 hectares of brackish waters. And very, very little of these are being used for inland fisheries. Why? Why can't we actually transfer some of our deeply impoverished fisherfolk from the coastal areas, where life is getting harder and harder for them, into inland areas and encourage them to fish inland? There are extraordinarily attractive export opportunities for all of this. Kerala has a very modest share of the national export of marine products, which is growing for India and shrinking for Kerala. So we can encourage, with our respect for cooperatives and collectives, we can get people to band together to do this because it is a bit capital intensive, and we can encourage them through tax incentives as well, and the state government can certainly facilitate this. Going from fisheries, I do definitely want to talk about value-added processing because there is no doubt that we can do a lot more in terms of processing what little we have to offer, whether it's fish, whether it's vegetables, whatever, in order to sell them somewhere else. We're not being sufficiently entrepreneurial. We all know that cut vegetables are the supermarket aisle. fetch a premium over the pachakari sold from an unduvandi. So why can't we try and do the same here by improving our processing industries? The Vizhinjam port was mentioned. One of the important adjuncts to the Vizhinjam port has got to be fish processing factories next door. And we are, according to the Exim Bank of India, there is a report saying that Kerala's exports are concentrated in a few low-value added products. And they say that we in Kerala need to diversify our exports. This is a perfectly rational, reasonable prescription they've made. We haven't done anything about it. Yes, I would agree totally with Nirmala Sitharaman about the importance of the Vizhinjam port. Not only are we just 8 nautical miles from the international sea lanes that carry 50% of global trade, but it's also true that our goods are being transshipped principally in Dubai, in Colombo, in Singapore, and in Port Klang in Malaysia, and we could very easily be able to bring a lot of that transshipment business here, generating more employment as well as value added for Kerala's economy. The problem is, of course, the project is well behind schedule at the moment, and for various reasons, the Vizhinjam port has not moved as rapidly as we would like. Meanwhile, Mr. Sitharaman spoke very wittily about her friend, Mr. Adani. Mr. Adani has meanwhile decided to invest in Colombo and to have a new port there as well that could well be competition for Vizhinjam and add to the competition Vizhinjam will face unless we get our act together. That's something else that we need to worry about. But if we can offer efficient cooperative thing, our location is better than Colombo's, and we can actually get a great deal done because an awful lot of goods are coming to India from Colombo, which is a port in which the Chinese have a lot of influence. Far better that they come directly to an Indian port and then are broken up and sent in smaller ships to other Indian ports. I also do want to endorse what she said about the Cochin shipyard, except that the capacity of the shipyard is somewhat limited. And one of the reasons why some orders could not be placed at the shipyard for shipbuilding purposes is because the shipyard could not take new orders. They were that full. So that's something she's also got to be aware of. We do have 10% of India's coastline, but we have only one Cochin shipyard, one Vizhinjam port, and of course Vallarpadam, which has not been a terribly economical port. And this becomes a challenge. We should be developing more significant ports up and down the length of our coastline. Yes, she talked about airlines, and that's another area where I had to enlighten her, but she's gone. That is that we actually have an MRO center run by Air India in Thiruvananthapuram Airport, the big Air India hangar, where planes are serviced and repaired and maintained. But the shocking news came that Air India is planning to shut it down. So whereas she's quite right that we can actually be a major center of MRO work, the private sector should also see the advantages of working in Kerala. And for that, of course, we absolutely need, in addition to the tax cuts she mentioned, we need to provide a serious amount of marketing on behalf of the state government to persuade them to come here and do precisely what it seems they're contemplating shutting down instead of adding to. Manufacturing cannot be ignored. We are not doing enough manufacturing, even in the MSME sector. In the last 15 years, we have created about 2,000 new factories, whereas Tamil Nadu has added 18,000 factories in the same 15,000 years. And even the young state of Telangana has added about 2,000 factories since it came into being, which is not that long ago. Now, it's true we have some challenges in Kerala: high labor cost, low land and power availability, strong labor unions, lots of red flags, and that's supposed to be why Kerala is not attractive for industries. What is shocking is that the number of factory workers in Kerala has gone down every year from 2004 to 2019. We are the only state to exhibit a negative trend other than Arunachal Pradesh. Every other state has shown an increase in the number of factory workers. So clearly we have a problematic image when it comes to industry friendliness. And I think it becomes indispensable that my point about hartals be respected, a political climate that permits or even refuses to oppose such antisocial acts as we've seen during hartals erodes the confidence that is crucial to attract private capital. And I'll try and conclude now by pointing out that, that we are a state with a lot of other positives to offer. I have not gone in great length about tourism because we all know that issue inside out, and it's one area where we're largely doing well, though we're not doing well enough in the MICE sector that was also mentioned by the finance minister. Meetings and conferences require large convention centers, and we don't have enough of them, not even in the state capital. A major one was planned for Akulum that has not been built. When the Lulu Mall was coming up, the original plans included a convention center that has not been built. We need to encourage the private sector to create more convention facilities for MICE purposes, and for that, we also need to have a friendly attitude. You probably know that when we were foolish enough to declare prohibition at one point, we lost 65% of the convention bookings in that first year because people from other states don't want to go to Gujarat, for example, for their conferences because they can't drink openly and relax at the end of a day's work. Kerala never had that reputation. We should not earn it again. We should go back to being honest about our needs. And I will say that there is no question that the large volume of money that can be made from companies having their annual conventions is some that really ought to come in part to Kerala as well. And I will finally just end with a brief return to the issue of technology, this time not in terms of businesses, but in terms of our governance. I do believe that we can use technology far more in matters like, for example, digitizing land governance, establishing ownership of land, which is so unnecessarily a matter of contention in our state, digitize all our land records and maintain it digitally. This actually, when Karnataka did this partly, they increased their tax revenues from land by 40%. That should be an incentive for the state government to actually digitize all our land records, because if you need resource mobilization, as the state government's planning board says they do, then the failure to harness technology in progressive ways is disappointing. We can actually raise revenue via property tax and municipal taxes in our state. Do you know that the last figure I saw in a World Bank report for Kerala, was a 2018 report, it may be better now, but I don't know how much, is that the revenue raised by municipal corporations in Kerala as a share of our state's GDP is only 0.04%. The rest of India is about 0.2%, that's 20, whereas we are 0.04. And we are much behind every other South Indian state, which is getting a lot more out of their property taxes because they are digitizing their records and making sure they can have an accurate tax base. Kerala has a much higher urban population. Officially in the 2011 census, which was the last census, 47.7% of Malayalis live in cities or in urban areas as defined by the census. And yet we have the lowest tax coming from property, which is a contradiction in terms. There's something wrong there. So we basically need to digitize governance and governance records in order to benefit for tax purposes as well. I do say that all of this will make a difference, and I have made these statements not lightly. I know that they're not always embraced uniformly by our political classes, perhaps not even on my own side of the political ledger, but I believe this is the only way forward. If we want to preserve our youth in our own state and not have them fleeing away. One young man, I asked him, why do you want to leave Kerala? And he said, what is there for me here, sir? Isn't Kerala now becoming an old age home? And that is not a reputation we can afford to have. As it is, yes, some of us will retire here and spend our retirement savings and pensions in Kerala, but that's not going to be enough to sustain the state. And increasingly, of course, many of our expatriates in the Gulf and so on are not retiring anymore in Kerala. They may have sent their money home and improved their homes here, but they're going off now to where their children are working, which is often in other Western developed countries rather than back in Kerala. So it's not even as if old age home concept and pensionable expenditure is going to transform the state. We need to bring businesses here. We need to retain our young people here. We need to give them opportunities and we need to give them hope. To do that, these are some of the ideas I wanted to put forward, and I really hope that they will resonate with those of you who are thinking about these issues. Thank you very much. Namaskaram.
Thank you, Dr. Tharoor. Excellent pointers for Kerala's future journey towards making more and more progress. And on that note, I'd like to bring onto the podium our next speaker, Professor Ravi Raman, who was a member of the planning board. I'd like to bring him on stage next for... Sir asked for a reversal.
Thanks. I don't think I have several things to add here because, I mean, most of the issues raised by Dr. Tharoor and also Nirmala Sitharaman, we all agree with that. We don't disagree with most of these things. But the point is that, they fail to recognize the fact that we have already started doing some of these major projects. I don't know why they don't recognize this. I don't know why they fail to acknowledge this. That's something which I think may be a bit of political in nature, but that's the reality. I tell you frankly that the Kerala economy is not in a crisis. Kerala economy is not at all in a crisis, I tell you frankly. If you take any of the financial indicators, it is on the right track. I mean, it's a very different kind of a dystopian mentality that you cultivate whenever you talk something about the debt or that sort of factors with respect to Kerala. That's not the reality. Because if you say about debt or interest payments, and if you try to understand these things in terms of ratios, you will find that there is a big improvement taking place with respect to Kerala. I tell you frankly. Just take one example, for instance. The interest payments as a share of revenue, it has come down. It keeps declining. What does it mean? That means that there is a fiscal consolidation taking place in Kerala. And you take the debt GDP ratio, again, that also has come down. And it was increased specifically because of COVID. And just before COVID, it was just 32. And after that, it went up to 38, specifically because the state, now it is 39, but it is, so state doesn't want to compromise its commitment to welfare activities. That's the point. That's the difference that you need to find when you talk about the trajectories of Indian development and the development that we undertake. In India, of course, you invest a whole lot of things in what is called infrastructure sectors, but you forget the fact that you don't meet the basic requirements of the people. It's simply possible to explain this by highlighting the fact that the multidimensional poverty of India is as high as 25, when you find that it is less than 1% in Kerala, 0.22 in Kerala. So what does it mean? It shows that you had two different trajectories. It is two different trajectories. You can't compare these two trajectories. So that's the point. So if Nirmala ji is serious about going beyond the homo economicus, then I think she will have to be in a position to challenge the way in which the social actors are devalued in India. Say whether you take the case of labor laws or what is called your attitude to peasant struggles. If those things are taken into account, I would simply say that you have always been devaluing these social agents, these producing sectors. So what I mean to say is that Kerala has been performing well, and I don't think I have time to go for that sort of percentages. If you take any of these things, that is the CapEx, the capital expenditure as a share of total expenditure, or the CapEx as a percentage of GSDP, it's all increasing. So we went for a different shift in what is called in our own perspectives on development, and we started what is called inviting private investments. I also tell you frankly that in the early 80s, actually Kerala was in a very backward position, and after 80s, it picked up specifically because that we had a very different attitude to private capital. So the growth of economy that you find at the moment is also partly contributed by the private investment. So what I wanted to say is that it was partly due to the way in which you reintegrated with the global economy. The way in which you reintegrated the world economy was partly explaining why you have had what is called a very vibrant growth. And at the moment, you find that the economy is poised for a double-digit growth. It is about 12% growth that we are going to have. It is true that Tharoor has rightly pointed out, it is true that we have this high unemployment rate. But I tell you frankly that even when you have high unemployment rate, you still find, your youth still find what is called a default income. And that default income is something which has been generated from within the economy and also partly because of high remittances. So what I wanted to tell you is that, or others, is that, we need not be much worried about the labor exporting nature of Kerala. What is so wrong about it? I would simply support that. If possible, you just be as mobile as possible. If possible, just try. I mean, better not to describe it as an escaping from your own homeland and like that. It's not like that. You are just exploring the international possibilities. You are just exploring and that's why that we wanted to set up a new, what is called nursing colleges. We wanted to have a refresh, a new kind of a reintegration with the world economy. Specifically because you have high educated unemployment. So in that context, there is no point, of course. So I wouldn't agree with Muralidharan or Nirmala ji even in that context that look, you will have to find jobs within India or within Kerala and like that. No, it's not like that. It's not simply possible because you are part of the global division of labor. So the best thing is for you is to negotiate with the global market, the international market. So you try to reintegrate with the global economy in such a way that you get your due share. That's the point. So, I mean, that's a theoretical and philosophical point that I would like to highlight. And my last thing is something that you have said here. That is, we need to agree that Kerala is a miracle state in India. It's a miracle state in India. You take any of these indices, you will find that Kerala is at the top. That means it's a miracle state, no doubt about it. Secondly, it is by and large contributed by the left legacy in India. And that is specifically why that you don't find this in other states. So this left legacy and the miracle that happened in India, is something which we need to acknowledge. And I tell you one more thing, that you're going to witness an even greater miracle when you are very serious about what's going on with respect to infrastructure investments in Kerala. All these sectors that Nirbalaji have pointed out, we have started allocating resources for that. We have started allocating resources for almost all these sectors that Nirbalaji has rightly pointed out here. And you take the case of MSME. Within a year's time, we created more than 1 lakh MSMEs. And you know one more thing? That more than 50% of these MSMEs are owned by women. Nowhere in India you would find this. So the gender inequality, you go beyond homo economicus. That's what she wanted us to do. Yeah, thanks for that. So what I'm trying to say is that this is a very different trajectory that we have undertaken. One last point, that it is true what she has said, that Finance Commission is part of the constitutional mandatory body and like that. But what about budgetary resources? I mean, it is true that simply because of what is called the new criteria in terms of population and income distance, your devolution of resources from the center to the state has come down from 3.9% to 2.5% and from there to 1.92%. That means you have lost nearly 10,000 crores simply because of that. And what about the cess and surcharges? It constituted only 12% of the total central revenue in 2012. Now it is 25%. What does it mean? It doesn't go to the divisible pool. It goes to the center's exchequer. It is not getting divided. And how about the corporate tax? Nothing to do with the Finance Commission. It is something which was decided by the central ministry. And simply because of that, the states in India have lost more than 1.4 lakh crores. Had it been distributed based on the same criteria, Kerala would have got its due share. So what I am trying to convince or trying to convey to Nirmala ji is that it is true that we will try to negotiate with the forthcoming Finance Commission, but you please do your support for us, particularly in terms of budgetary allocations. Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Today she announced 3 allocations from the agricultural cess, and she gave a few crores to put machinery into the few crores to what you guys mentioned a couple of Kerala. And she's saying that basically she's giving money from the cess. When it becomes discretionary, she doesn't have to give. When the Finance Commission, the tax have to give.
So gratifying to listen to these diverse perspectives, and Dr. Tharoor needs to leave, but please let's take a moment to express our appreciation for his presence here. I request our chief editor to come on stage and present a token of our appreciation to Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Thank you, Dr. Tharoor, for that detailed address here. And now, to address us, I'd like to bring onto the podium Dr. Allah, Shri G. Vijayaraghavan.
Good evening, quite late in the evening, and I hope by the time we all finish, there are more people in the audience than there are on the stage. Couple of quick points, and I'll try to be quite brief. One, irrespective of what we say, we are not business friendly. Unless that changes, that mindset changes, you are not going to see investments. Irrespective of whatever governments do or policies that come out, that feeling of Kerala is not business friendly is there, and it comes out with small incidents that are there. So that is something which we have to be very, very careful. We've been depending on remittances, and those remittances are going to come down. Like was said, you have, when you said there's no problem in Kerala, it's going around the world to work. No problems at all. But I am worried when I find that people are going outside the state and outside the country for undergraduate studies. If somebody leaves the state to do a BA in psychology, or goes outside the state to do a BCom or a BA in economics, there is something terribly wrong with our higher education department. And that is something that we have to definitely look at. Unfortunately, the higher education policies of the state are controlled by unions of teachers and administrators. And if we don't agree, and I'm being very frank about it, we can all in private conversations say whatever we want. But the fact is that anything which impacts a teacher, if the teacher has to study something new, that policy will not go through. You have somebody sitting here who was the vice chancellor of the technical university. That university was originally planned to be a referral university, correct? It was a re-affiliating university. But then, that was during the UDF time. That got changed. But still, when he came in, the policies were so good that we had hardly any, not that politicians are bad, but we had hardly any politicians on the syndicate and other bodies. That got completely diluted, which means very clearly, higher education institutions are not for students. Higher education institutions have become institutions for those who are running it as a business, or for those who are running it for giving jobs to people. Unless that is changed, you're not going to see a change in the higher education sector in Kerala. I was so surprised when the MP said, we don't even have one good private university in the state. Have we allowed one private university to come up in the state? How can a member of parliament tell that we don't have even one good private university in the state when we have opposed, whether it was the UDF or the LDF, we have opposed private university. Why did Amrita set up their university in Coimbatore on the border of Kerala? Because we did not allow them to come here. So the thing is that we have to, we are in private agreeing. I know that the government is working on a policy, and I think it is high time. We are already late. Every time we are late on coming out with policies, okay? Computers, by the time we accepted it, it was late, but we still did something. The MP also mentioned AI will take away jobs. AI will never take away a job. When we say AI will take away a job, it is exactly like we said computers will take away jobs. AI will not take away a job, but a person using AI will take away a job from today. A person using a computer took away jobs, but if you look at Kerala today, in a way, the jobs that are there today are those where a computer is used. So definitely, there is a mindset change that is required. So higher education, definitely, it is not enough to recast it. Malayalathe paranja odachu vaarkanam. You can't have the same kind of setup at the top. You can't have it the whole thing. And you know, when Tharoor talked about the Einstein being, you know, it's such a pathetic condition to say that a vice chancellor can give his biodata at the DCC office or a party office and become the vice chancellor. And you should remember when EMS was there, and I'm sure all of you heard about it, when the then vice chancellor said, I want to meet you, I will come, and EMS said, no, you're the vice chancellor of the university, you can't come to me. And then I will come there. He said, no, you're the chief minister, how can you come to meet me? So they decided to meet elsewhere. From that, we have come to a stage where people listen to the party which put them in position. We divide the vice chancellor's position based on the caste, the religion, and the party that they have. The other thing which again is important is, we are probably one of the smallest states in the country, but we have the largest public service commission. Why? It is again another place to divide and give. It's something to give to parties to put up their nominees there. So the thing is that there needs to be a complete restructuring in the way we look at it, the way we think about things if you are going to see growth in the state. I will just say that, look, we have been leading in many sectors, in the health, in the school education area, etc. There's been substantial development that is there, and that's been going on for last several decades, but we are losing out on that. Look at the gap in each of these indices which we are playing, which we proudly claim about ourselves between Kerala and other states. And you will see that gap is coming down. I work very closely in the disability sector. Even today, Kerala is the #1 state as far as the disability sector is concerned. But there again, you're going to see other states catching up very, very soon. And we have got miles to go before we really can say that we are really good. Another one, which is again, people don't like to touch what Tharoor once talked about. He talked about the cattle class, but I'm talking about the holy cow. Okay? People have a problem touching the holy. Land reforms in Kerala, I know you may not fully agree, it's a holy cow nobody wants to touch. Okay? The thing is that you look at several mid-altitude tea, terrible condition. Okay? They're not making money. What prevents us from telling people you can have perennial crops there? You don't have to give it for real estate development. You can give it for any other kind of fruits. You can give it for coconut plantations. You can give it for vegetables. But somehow, everyone is afraid to touch that sector. Unless we look at changes in the Land Reforms Act. And it's not enough to tinker with it like, I know when I was on the planning board, we wanted 10% ultimate, they said 5% for tourism. That's not enough. You will have to give the farmer the freedom to cultivate what they want, as long as it is not something which is damaging the soil. So you can't have you have to have perennial crops in some places, which means you'll need to have trees. Fruits are good. Fruits stay on for a long time. So let us start looking at making changes in those areas without which you're not going to find the kind of development and the growth that we want. The other one is, I talked about called technical education briefly. If 1,000 people apply for a job from Kerala, less than 100 can be called for the interview, and less than 3 or 4 actually get through if somebody is looking for a good engineer for the IT industry. That is a kind of quality degradation that has happened in the last 20-25 years. We have completely diluted that. This is not the case around the country, because you will have people from some corner of Bihar, some corner of West Bengal, actually coming and passing the tests and coming and performing interviews with terrible English, but technically they are competent. Our competence levels of those who come out of our education institutions, including technical institutions, is terrible. Look at our ITIs and the polytechnics and look at what they are learning. I know there's a lot of change with a policy that came out several years ago. We have industry working with the ITIs, etc. But can they take on a job if they go to the Gulf without training? Impossible. Because we are using old equipment, we are using old faculty who don't want to change, and you try to change that syllabus, then that faculty have a problem because that guy will lose his job. The problem today in the education sector, higher education or technical education, is how do I protect the job of the teacher there and not about the future of the student who is studying there. Unless that changes for education to be focused on the student's benefit and not for the benefit of the administrator, the syndicate, or the teacher who is there, you will find that education overall will go off. Now, there is one problem with all this, and in fact, our education system actually today is creating unemployable graduates, unemployable postgraduates, and unemployable PhDs. The next one, which I thought I'll talk about, is, we somehow, there's a lot of old baggage which we are carrying. In private, we keep that baggage down because our children can study outside the state, our children can study outside the country, our children can work outside the state. But when it comes to Kerala, we still have a problem in terms of accepting that some changes have to happen. And I always give the example on education that in the past, businessmen sent their children to outside the state, outside the country. Then bureaucrats started sending them. Then politicians also started sending them, which means education, higher education in Kerala is not fit for my children, but the rest of the people need to take it whether they like it or not. So that is one big change that we need to put. The other one is, we don't really have a master plan, whether it's for the development of the state or whether it's for the development of the cities. There is no master plan at all. In fact, I know that we worked on a perspective plan. It must be lying there. I was very happy when I saw a lot of those coming in a different language when these were put in as part of the manifesto and the discussions the last time, and I was happy about it. But the problem here is that unless we really create a master plan for the development of the state, which is not just about buildings, etc., what we will focus on, what we will not focus on, what industries we want, what industries we don't want, what are the focuses that we build. And there's a lot to learn from a place like China on that. Okay, China years ago decided we will become the leaders in semiconductors in so many years. And the number of programs they started for that, from their ITI equivalent institutions to universities, in that, so that you really want today people who really do good work in semiconductors, you need to go to China. So why can't we start thinking beyond the 3 years, 5 years that we rule to see what we can look at for the state for 15, 20 years from now? So a master plan. The other big problem is the failure of implementation. The budget speeches of the ministers in Kerala, the planning board's documents, I've also been part of that, are really good. Nobody can question that. But unfortunately, implementation is a disaster. It's not that it is something very recent, even in the past. And a typical example of that, which I had given in front of the Chief Minister once, was the Shangamuham Road. Luckily, it's done now. How long did it take us to do that? It was first a 10 meter, 15 meter, and then it started increasing, and it took us years to really do that. It is basically a failure of implementation because 2 departments were involved, irrigation and PWD. There's practically no collaboration there. So very clearly, implementation has been failing. I fully agree with Shashi Tharoor when he talked about the way we strike. Okay? This is the only place in the world where you can actually hold somebody to ransom by telling, if you go to office, I'll have a problem for you. So that has to change. And if you're looking at a new Kerala, we're looking at a Kerala which is different, where you're talking about growth, you're talking where people will live in. It is high time that we make that. The most important thing that we must all realize, that there is no way government can distribute wealth without creating wealth. Government can't pull out from somewhere. We have to, and that is where our tax collection rates are terrible. Our mobilization of taxes from the local bodies, etc., is very bad. And if you look at it, there is no way that our tax compliance can be so low. There is something wrong. Either there is massive evasion, which means there is massive corruption, without which they can't have evasion to that level. So clearly there is substantial part. And a lot of it, including, I mean, you look at weddings that take place here, and you see the gold that is there at that wedding. Where is all that tax going? Okay? So very clearly it is necessary for us to look at it in a way by which we say, look, tax compliance is important. You pay your taxes well. Let's see how that can be done. Now, the other important thing, and I know that there's a lot which the state government and the earlier state governments were doing, is there are marginalized sections of society. Fisherfolk, tribals, the scheduled castes, the people with disabilities. There is a lot that we have in schemes. But I would like you to do, and I've done an exercise, but I request, because you just find out how much are we spending, how much money we spend on the administrative setup of the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe department, starting from the minister down to the guy who is working as a tribal welfare officer or village. Look at the total amount of money spent there and look at the money which reaches the beneficiary. And you will see that we are spending practically as much, if not more, than what is reaching them. And that is where it is necessary to have less government and more governance. We need to see how we can do that. We need to work either through NGOs or otherwise, but government is becoming too big. I know immediately they'll be saying, are we talking of downsizing government? You don't have to downsize, keep them, redeploy them somewhere. But very clearly we are spending more money on the system that is actually supporting them than we are actually benefiting them. I would say overlook, I'm somebody who's believed in Kerala for the last 30 plus years that I've been here. I've done very few programs outside the state. But I find that even people who have invested in Kerala, who've come in and invested, are actually, irrespective of whatever people say, are saying, I want to look at something elsewhere. That is not good. Kerala Kaumudi can't start another Malayalam newspaper saying we are a Bombay-based paper. You will have an edition that is okay. You will have to be here. But for somebody who is in what I would call the footloose industries like IT, or when she talked about the capability centers coming up, you should remember that McKinsey had a center in Trivandrum. It was closed down. Nobody even has bothered to check why. And I know the effort it took me to bring them here after I left Technopark. Because when I was in Technopark, McKinsey said, we can't do it in Kerala. I set it up for them in Chennai. And then there was a time when McKinsey was doing major projects for the Andhra government with Chandrababu Naidu. Then McKinsey made the announcement. They did not make the announcement. Somebody in Kerala made an announcement saying that McKinsey has come here, and Chandrababu Naidu got upset with them saying, I'm giving you work, but you're going to Kerala. They set up a facility here which was employing several hundred people. I don't know whether they have anybody here. We talked of Nissan, was mentioned. Nissan was supposed to set up a huge campus. There was land allocated to them. They've not done it. So the fact is there is something wrong. And unless we are prepared to accept that there are things which are not going well and that there are changes we have to make and it is not enough to have just policies, I'm not blaming the government alone. I'm saying that there should be a mindset change in the mind of the Malayali. There should be a mindset change in the way we look at things. If that doesn't happen, it will be very difficult for us to even survive as a retirement state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, GVR, for precisely addressing the specific challenges of Kerala and also suggesting course corrections. And I would now like to invite Sri T.K. Nair to address this gathering.
Well, friends, at this very belated hour, let me start with what my good friend Mr. Vijay Raghavan said about Kerala being a retirement home. or people only who seek retirement or who would like to live their life of retirement in Kerala would be happy about Kerala. Well, I mean, forgive me for being very personal about it. I have yet to discover that. I have spent a lifetime outside Kerala, 51 years to be precise, as a part of 3 governments. For some time in the government of Kerala, long time in the government of Punjab, and about 20 years in the government of India. And finally, I am back here in Thiruvananthapuram. Well, basic reason is that I didn't have a home elsewhere, and my wife had inherited a property where I can live, but that apart. Well, during the last 2 to 3 hours, we listened to various facets of development in the context of what is happening in India, and also what is happening or not happening in Kerala. Well, for obvious reasons, my perspective would be different from either Vijay Raghavan's or Dr. Raman's, or nor of the Honorable Finance Minister or our Honorable Member of Parliament. We all realize that there's a lot of substance, there is a lot of hard reality which was reflected in all these presentations. No doubt, everything is not right with Kerala. Mr. Vijay Raghavan repeated that twice. I don't know how long it will take for us to change our mindset. Do we have to be somebody other than a Keralite to reach the level of development which we desire? Change of mindset. I mean, I can understand in some sense that if I am used to thinking that whatever government does is right and I should follow government, but that attitude of mind, if you ask me to change it, I can reason it out. But otherwise, you know, over a period of time, maybe centuries, we have developed a culture. Forgive me for saying that, in spite of the fact that I lived outside Kerala, that many of you did, I can't get rid of that. You see, let's be honest about it. To make changes in the way in which human beings are conditioned or human beings, you know, live for a long time, takes time. We have to have patience about that. Business orientation we don't have, I agree. But unless you have a business attitude and a business orientation, you can't make a success of a business. So let's be clear about it. So it takes time. We have to be patient about it. The other thing that I would like to emphasize as a bureaucrat or an ex-bureaucrat is that when you make a deep analysis of what is happening, particularly in the context of Kerala, I think divisive, destructive politics is the villain of the piece. Divisive, destructive, partisan politics. That stands in the way of many things about which society at large would have no problems. You take the case of 2 of these major projects which came about in the state of Punjab. In some remote way, I have been associated with both. One is the Vizhinjam Port and the other is the Gale project. And the third one is the Villarpadam project. But these 2, you know, I'm sure all of you are aware of the background of these, and there were big differences made out to be. There were times when we thought that Vizhinjam project would not take off, and today I'm glad that those who oppose the project for some reason or the other, they are not doing that, they are happy about it. Same thing about the Gale project. So it is because I believe, as I have seen it fairly firsthand, that divisive politics, destructive politics, if politician A belonging to party A wants to do something, politician in party B, he will oppose it. Of course, shamelessly, he will adopt it when he comes back to power. This is what is happening. This is the story of Kerala. Divisive, destructive politics. And who can change that? That can be changed only by the people. And the people make the leaders realize that this kind of destructive politics, this kind of negativism doesn't help you come to power, then maybe things will start moving. Well, I have another, what do I say, very unpopular it would be. Take the geography of Kerala, take the factor endowments of Kerala. We are talking about today. We are not talking about what happened 20 years ago or what is going to happen 10 years ago. Today, in the foreseeable future, in the next 5 years, can anyone say that we will have full employment, at least to the educated unemployed? I dare say we cannot. We just do not have within Kerala the resources to provide gainful employment to these graduates coming out of educational institutions. I agree entirely with Mr. Vijay Raghavan about the quality of the stuff that come out of it. Forget about that, that's another part of it. But, you see, a hint of that was made by both the finance minister and Mr. Shashi Tharoor. We are, in Kerala, depending to a large extent on the remittances that we get from outside. We are not ashamed of that. Hundreds of thousands of our people do, really hard work in very depressing conditions in many parts of the world. Why can't we as a policy boldly say that we would be the best exporter, we would be the best source of the best human talent or human asset which we can send to different parts of the world. Even now people are working in different parts of the world. There are many people who are working in America, in France, in Japan, everywhere. Why can't we systematically do that? Why are we talking all the time about no employment in Kerala? Go on crying. Can any one of us sincerely believe that in the next 5 years or 10 years, we will be able to provide full employment to these educated unemployed who have high aspirations? Their aspirations are going up, not coming down. So therefore, take into account this reality. Train people who are needed in different parts of the world. Japan, Germany, there are many other parts of the world where on account of, the falling birth rate and because of the need for people to handle their jobs. They are in need of people, but they are in need of trained people. We know that also. But this is not very difficult. But if a government takes that into account as a policy and announces it, I am sure there will be terrible opposition, saying that, look, you are exporting people from Kerala, what the hell are you going to do for people in Kerala? People in Kerala will be helped with the remittances that they will receive. And again, in this, knowledge age or knowledge times, Keralites, it was made out very clearly, all we know is there are hundreds of people in Kerala who are fairly educated. They may not be of a very high standard, but compared to the rest of India, they are good human resource. Develop this human resource to cater to the requirements of different parts of the world. And different parts of the world would look up to Kerala for getting its manpower. Similarly, Keralites would benefit. You see, lots of Keralites who are settled abroad may come back later on. People will benefit from their knowledge, not only the resources that they sent while they were working, but while they come back. You can, as every one of us knows, changes are happening, at lightning speed. So whatever we say today may not be very relevant after, even a year, less than that. Therefore, what is practical today, what is possible today, let's talk about them. It's very good that we are reminded of the very many shortcomings that we have. We are also being reminded about the very many initiatives which the state government is doing. Mr. Ravi Raman described them in great detail. Before that, we heard what we are lacking. Therefore, my humble request, suggestion is that let us not be ashamed of what we are. We have shortcomings, we have a long way to go. But let's be proud of the fact that we are one of the best states, not one of the, perhaps the best state in Kerala, in India. The Human Development Index, evolved by the United Nations, you look at them, Kerala stands the best state in India. So let's be happy about it, let's be proud of it. At the same time, as we have been reminded today in very forceful language of our shortcomings, and try what we can do within our limitations, within our society, within our polity. And let me also once again stress before I conclude that destructive politics for the sake of partisan politics, without considering the larger interests of the state, is the main villain of the peace. And let's hope that political leaders will realize that if they have a kind of a samavayam about the basic way in which the state should move forward, the direction in which the state is to move forward, if there is a consensus on that, perhaps that will stand us in good stead. Thank you very much.
That was a succinct summarizing of all the diverse perspectives that we heard on this stage today. Thank you for that, Sri Nair. And on that note, I'd like to bring back our Chief Editor on stage to present a memento to all our three speakers here. Sri Deepu Ravi will now be presenting a token of our appreciation to Mr. T.K. Nair first. It's right here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last ceremony on stage. Yes, let's hear it loud. Followed by Dr. Ravi Raman. And Sri G. Vijayaraghavan. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on stage. And that brings us to the close of the second session on stage, as well as this conclave. Thank you for being patiently with us. Can we have the national anthem, please? Let's rise for national anthem.
Janagana mana adhinayaka jaya he, Bharat bhagya vidhata. Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravida, Utkala, Vanga, Vindhya, Himachala, Yamuna, Ganga, Uchchala, Jaladhi, Taranga. Tava Shubha Name Jage, Tava Shubha Ashish Mange, Gahe Tava Jaya Gatha, Jana Gana Mangala Dayaka Jaya He, Bharat Bhagya Vidhata, Jaya He, Jaya He, Jaya He, Jaya 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 He.
ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി എമർജിംഗ് ഭാരത് ഗ്രോയിങ് കേരള എന്നീ ബിസിനസ് കോൺക്ലേവിൽ പങ്കെടുത്ത നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും ഹൃദയത്തിന്റെ ഭാഷയിൽ നന്ദി പറയുന്നു. എല്ലാവർക്കും ശുഭരാത്രി നേരുന്നു. നമസ്കാരം.